Chapter 1069. Li Zongjiu didn't want to wait any longer. He directly used the Eagle battleship to send them to the Haikou dynasty's territory. Although many of the Haikou dynasty's warships hovered in the air as if they wanted to form a fortress in the sky, in front of the Eagle battleship's speed, these warships didn't have any reaction at all. However, the Eagle battleship's flight consumed a huge amount of vitality stones. Fortunately, Li Zongjiu could still afford it. Once again coming to the Haikou dynasty's territory, Li Zongjiu could only look for the Wan family. Wanyong Marquis Mansion. With a swoosh, the two of them descended from the sky and landed in the Wanyong Marquis Mansion. When the two of them appeared, there were immediately people who were extremely nervous and crowded over. They surrounded Li Zongjiu and Li Zongjiu tightly. "Who is it? How dare you barge into the Marquis Mansion?" The leader of the guards pointed his blade at them. Rushing in without a greeting, they definitely didn't have good intentions. However, Li Zongjiu didn't need to explain, there were already people who came forward. "All of you, retreat." Wan Yulan walked out from the side. "I haven't even sent out the invitation and you're already here." Wan Yulan looked at Li Zongjiu in astonishment. The guards also retreated one after another. All of them together weren't a match for the young lady. Moreover, since the young lady came forward, there naturally wouldn't be a problem. "Sorry to disturb you, I need you to help me find someone," Li Zongjiu said. "Come in, grandfather is in seclusion. The matters of the Marquis Mansion are now under my control." Li Yun glanced at Wan Yulan. The White Deer Mansion had also studied the Wanyong Marquis Mansion. Basically, it was Wan Yonggong who was supporting it. However, now that these matters were handed over to Wan Yulan, it meant that Wan Yulan would definitely be the successor in the future. The three of them entered the house. Li Zongjiu also told them about Wu Tian, his subordinate Wu Shan, and the King of Fire. "I'll immediately send someone to investigate," Wan Yulan said with a serious expression. This King of Fire must be a very important person. Otherwise, with Li Zongjiu's personality, he wouldn't come directly to the Haikou dynasty without a greeting. One must know that it was very dangerous for Li to come to the Haikou dynasty with his current identity. Now, there were many people who were watching Li Zongjiu openly and secretly. Therefore, for Li Zongjiu to come here with such an identity, it must be very dangerous and reckless. Although Wan Yulan had stayed in the White Deer Mansion for a while, her main purpose was not to investigate anything. She had never seen the King of Fire before. She only knew that there was a small courtyard in the mansion that no one was allowed to approach. Now, it seemed that it was the King of Fire's residence. Very quickly, he handed over the matter. "As long as she is in the Haikou dynasty, we will be able to find her in 2 days at most," Wan Yulan said. "Okay." Li Zongjiu knew that there wasn't much time left. With the King of Fire's strength, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Li Zongjiu was also thinking hard. At the same time, he was also recalling. If the King of Fire and Sky Shaman were of the same origin, they should be able to refine and assimilate power at any time. However, Sky Shaman wanted to bring the King of Fire to the Demon-Suppressing Palace. Why? In the Demon-Suppressing Palace, the only supreme treasure is the Demon-Suppressing Ruler, Li Zongjiu muttered in his heart. The Demon-Suppressing Ruler, and the Supreme Treasure Sword. Suddenly, Li Zongjiu's eyes lit up. The Supreme Treasure Sword. In his previous life, Sky Shaman's weapon was this Supreme Treasure Sword. It was also because Sky Shaman had the Supreme Treasure Sword in his hand that Li Zongjiu gave him some leeway. No wonder. In my previous life, even I had to be wary of that peerless sword. Ordinary people simply can't unleash the power of a peerless sword. It's because this peerless sword requires the infusion of an origin soul. Li Zongjiu immediately understood everything. In his previous life, he had never heard of the King of Fire's name because the King of Fire died at the hands of Sky Shaman and became the power for Sky Shaman to refine the Supreme Treasure Sword. To refine the Supreme Treasure Sword was very complicated. The requirements were also very strange. You can understand it as, if you want to lift the supreme treasure sword, you need to first refine a clone of yourself. When your clone's strength is about the same as yours, you need to infuse the power of your clone into the supreme treasure sword. Only then would your true body be able to pick up the unparalleled treasured sword. In layman's terms, it would require two of you to do it. With such a strange requirement, Li Zongjiu naturally lost interest. As for Sky Shaman, it was only because of the power of the supreme treasure sword that he was able to fight to a draw with Li Zongjiu. And it was Li Zongjiu before he refined the 4 supreme dragon souls. If Li Zongjiu had succeeded in refining the supreme dragon souls, he would have been an expert of the supreme saint realm. Where is the demon suppression palace? Li Zongjiu asked. Sky Shaman should have already set out to search for the demon suppression palace. In the process, he must have locked up and trapped the King of Fire. Perhaps he was suffering some kind of torture right now. The demon suppression palace hasn't appeared yet. I only know that it's in the Black River region. But in the next few days, there will definitely be some movement. Then let's go to the Black River region first. Li Zongjiu said. Immediately, he prepared to leave as well without delay. Wan Yulan could see Li Zongjiu's anxiety. This was very similar to Li Zongjiu's style. Usually, there was no need to wait for anything. If one only knew how to wait, the consequences would only get worse. Only by taking action could they solve more problems. Well, Wan Yulan, you're using the family's resources to help your little lover. Wan Yulan also planned to go with Li Zongjiu. After all, this was the Haiku dynasty. If Wan Yulan led the way, it would naturally be safer and more convenient. But just as they were about to leave, a voice sounded from outside the house. Then, they saw an arrogant young man walk in. When he walked in, there was a trace of pride at the corner of his mouth. It was as if he had finally caught Wan Yulan's weakness. Wan Qiankuan, watch your mouth. Wan Yulan glanced at Wan Qiankuan and said indifferently. After her grandfather went into seclusion, he handed over the matters to Wan Yulan. These cousins had already begun to palpitate. Obviously, her grandfather also wanted to see how Wan Yulan would deal with them. It was also a test. Therefore, Wan Yulan was tolerating Wan Qiankuan in all aspects. But today, Wan Qiankuan's words were really too much. Not only did he offend Wan Yulan, but he also offended Li Zongjiu. This is none of your business. Get out. Wan Yulan said in a deep voice. When Wan Qiankuan heard this, he was so angry that he laughed. Ha, Wan Yulan, do you really think that you're the master of the Wan family? Wan Qiankuan immediately mocked. When Wan Yulan was about to say something, she suddenly saw Li Zongjiu move. Li Zongjiu's speed was not very fast. He even deliberately slowed down and appeared in front of Wan Qiankuan. What, boy, do you want to hit me? Do you think that this is your Xinyan dynasty? Try to touch me if you dare. Slap. As soon as his voice fell, Li Zongjiu slapped Wan Qiankuan's face, causing him to faint. He fainted on the ground. Let's go. Obviously, Li Zongjiu did not want to waste so much time on Wan Qiankuan. It was already polite of him to save his life with a slap. Wan Yulan had expected this. However, when he saw this scene happening in front of him, this feeling of satisfaction was unprecedented. It was simply too satisfying. However, on the surface, Wan Yulan naturally couldn't make it too obvious. Ahem, Elder Yuan, take him to recuperate. In addition, I'll leave the matters of the Marquis Mansion to you. Yes, Mississippi. Chapter 1070. Li Zongjiu had only stayed in the Marquis of Wanyong's residence for a short while. However, the Black Canal Basilica still received the news. Immediately, everyone held a hunting and killing meeting regarding Li Zongjiu's arrival. Without a doubt, the life and death servant that was sent previously must have been killed by Li Zongjiu in a cruel way. This guy must be severely punished and the soul-returning beast must be taken back. The 10 red bishops discussed in front of a round table. However, Li Zongjiu's strength is not simple. If he reveals his strength in advance, it will be extremely disadvantageous for us to fight for the treasure of the Demon Suppression Palace. Let's not bother about this guy for now and focus on preparing for the Demon Suppression Palace. Have the people of the Tianyan dynasty been notified? They have replied. The Sky Water sect, the Moon Clan, and the Mount Tai Sword sect have all expressed that they will come. In addition to these people, some forces that do not belong to the three dynasties have also been invited. Forces that did not belong to the three dynasties. First of all, the places where these sects and forces were established were barren and unbounded lands. In such places, no one would care if you killed people or set fire to them. Similarly, without the protection of the city, the attacks of the meta beasts would not be few. This feeling was similar to that of a meta beast. If they hid in a human city and built a primordial beast sect, they would definitely be attacked frequently. As for how to deal with it, it would depend on the individual's ability to survive and not threaten the three dynasties. Naturally, they would not pay too much attention to you. Recently, a force called Wushan seems to be very arrogant. I heard that he has already destroyed several sects and injured these people. If we don't deter him, he will definitely end up like Li Zongjiu. We are already very secretive and strange, but this Wushan's method of killing people is even more cruel and vicious. He is definitely not to be trifled with. No one knew what the 10 red bishops were talking about. The meeting went off topic as it went on. Then, someone slammed the table. Cough, cough. After talking for so long, who is going to deal with Li Zongjiu? The cardinal presiding over the meeting said. Looking around, everyone lowered their heads. Some people even wanted to find some other topics to talk about. There were probably people who wanted to flip the table on the spot. I've said a lot of useless things. Since that's the case, I'll just wait for this Li Zongjiu to arrive at the Demon Suppression Palace before dealing with him. That's a good idea. Not bad, not bad. It is only in the Demon Suppression Palace that our many years of research have an advantage. Some people expressed their agreement one after another. These people probably hadn't met such a ruthless character in a long time, so they were a little scared to face Li Zongjiu now. They weren't like before, where they would just send people to kill if there was a problem. This time, when they faced Li Zongjiu, almost all the people they sent were killed by Li Zongjiu. Who would dare to come up with an idea? The merits of these bishops also came from their usual contributions. Every decision they made would be recorded. If there was a mistake in a decision, all the blame would be placed on their head. If they made too many mistakes, it would be impossible for them to be promoted. They would have to wear red for the rest of their lives and be a cardinal for the rest of their lives. Therefore, when facing Li Zongjiu, they didn't want to face him head-on. In fact, they just wanted to muddle through. Black River Basin, it was because there was a large river nearby that had been flowing for nearly 10,000 years. Who knew how many primordial beasts and how many citizens of the city had been raised by the Black River? Moreover, one could clearly feel an intense life force in the surroundings of the Black River Basin. If one wanted to follow the Black River all the way up, it would take a long time to finish traversing the Black River. The Black River Basin stretches endlessly. Let's go to the nearest city and find some information. Jiuhua City, it was the largest and most prosperous city near the Black River Basin. Right now, many masters had come to Jiuhua City to explore. Although they didn't know the exact location of the Demon Suppression Palace, many rumors were accurate. Therefore, after many people received the news, even though they didn't receive an invitation, they still squeezed their way over here. After all, it was said that there were countless demonic treasures in the Demon Suppression Palace. There were also many inheritances left behind by powerful ancestors. If one could obtain any of them, it would be beneficial for the rest of one's life. In Jiuhua City, many masters of the Jiuhua world had arrived. No one knew how many of them were low-key masters. However, if they encountered something on the streets, it was best to settle it peacefully. Li Zongjiu and the other two walked into Zhouhua City. Although the entire Zhouhua City was under the rule of the Haiku dynasty, the Zhouhua faction controlled the lifeline of Zhouhua City. It was said that more than half of the nobles in the city were disciples of the Zhouhua faction. Just this fact alone was enough for the Zhouhua faction to rule over Zhouhua City. Most of the information about this city is in the hands of the Zhouhua faction. Therefore, we only need to find the people of the Zhouhua faction, and we will be able to get some clues. The Zhouhua sect was set up on an extremely tall mountain within the city. Around the mountain gate, there were many defensive castles and watchtowers. Outsiders couldn't get close to the Zhouhua faction. They could only stand outside the mountain gate of the Zhouhua faction and look at the tall and majestic mountain gate. The people who walked out of the Zhouhua faction all had arrogant expressions on their faces. One Yulan led Li Zongjiu and the other two to the foot of Mount Zhouhua and stood in front of the two disciples who were guarding the mountain. "I'm from the Marquis Mansion of Wanyong, and I'm here to see your faction master." One Yulan took out the identity token of the Marquis Mansion of Wanyong. With Wan Yolan's identity, she would naturally be able to move unimpeded in Black Canal Royal City. No one would dare to stop her. But here, Wan Yolan's identity medallion was clearly not enough. As the saying goes, those who rely on the mountain eat the mountain, and those who rely on the water eat the water. No matter how powerful you were, you couldn't beat the local tyrant. The people of Mount Zhouhua were used to being domineering, and they only recognized money and not people. "Our faction master is in seclusion, and he won't see anyone." The two of them rolled their eyes as they spoke. Of course, during this process, they also carefully sized up Wan Yulan and Li Yan in front of them. These two girls had pretty good figures. What Marquis Mansion of Wanyong? They didn't care. So what if you were famous? You still came to Mount Zhouhua to seek help from their faction master. Since you're asking for an audience, you should at least show some sincerity. Wan Yulan saw through their thoughts and immediately took out a few purple yuan coins from her sleeve and stuffed them into the other party's hands. "I hope the two of you can make an exception." After receiving the purple yuan coins, the two disciples' expressions finally relaxed a little. "Girl, you're quite tactful. However, our faction master said that he won't see any guests. Please leave." A trace of helplessness appeared in Wan Yulan's eyes. "You asked for it." Wan Yulan said faintly. No one knew what Wan Yulan meant. Could it be that she was threatening them? Li Zongjiu took a step forward and grabbed the disciple who took the money but didn't do anything. "What are you trying to do? This is Zhouhua sect's territory. Do you want to die?" The disciple instantly became nervous. Although it was generally said that people who beat up the guarding disciples would not have a good ending, he had already been beaten up first. Therefore, he was still at a disadvantage. "What am I trying to do? Tell everyone in your sect to get out here." With a swoosh, Li Zongjiu threw the disciple towards a tower not far away. Boom! The tower was directly knocked down, and the person just now was probably half paralyzed. Along the way, Li Zongjiu suppressed his anger. The King of Fire was in trouble, but they didn't have any clues until now. Yet, these people still dared to dawdle here. How could he be nice to them? You're challenging Zhouhua sect. Wait for your death." After the disciple finished speaking, he pulled the trigger on the signal arrow in his hand. Chapter 1071. The signal arrow shot straight up into the sky. With a bang, it exploded. "Who dares to be so presumptuous in my Zhouhua sect?" Immediately, a young voice roared angrily, as if he was stepping on the thunder clouds in the sky. Rumble. A young man with a strong aura, leading a few disciples of the Zhouhua sect, landed in front of Li Zongjiu and the others. The young man who flew over was none other than the chief disciple of the Zhouhua sect. When the chief disciple appeared in front of Li Zongjiu and the others, his followers lined up behind him. "Senior brother, this person wanted to barge into the sect." Senior brother Yen wanted to stop him, but he was thrown out and crashed into the tower. When the other guarding disciple saw the arrival of the chief disciple, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Now that the chief disciple was here, he wanted to see how arrogant these people could be. How dare you? Today, I'll cripple you. Immediately, the chief disciple drew a sword flower with his long sword. Immediately, an extremely sharp sword energy pierced towards Li Zongjiu and the others. However, Li Zongjiu reached out with his hand. He easily caught the opponent's sword. What? The chief disciple of Mount Jiuhua could be considered a true genius in the study of sword techniques. Countless elders praised his talent and strength. The sword in his hand was also a treasure of the sect, and it had already reached the level of a level 5 origin weapon. This idiot Li Zongjiu actually dared to catch it with his hand. However, not only did Li Zongjiu catch the sword, he also used a little force. Clang! A crisp sound rang out. The sword in his hand was directly broken. Then, Li Zongjiu kicked the chief disciple's chest, sending him flying. Bang! His body flew backwards. When the chief disciple fell to the ground, he didn't know what had happened. The protective inner armor on his body was already shattered by the opponent's kick. Senior brother. The rest of them hurriedly surrounded the eldest senior brother. Release. Release the arrow of command. Eldest senior brother clutched his chest as he endured the pain in his chest and roared out those words. Quick, release the arrow of command. Command arrows and signal arrows released by people of different ranks had different effects. Now, the command arrow released by the first senior brother was different. This immediately alerted all the deacons of the Jiuhua sect. Boom! 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 At least 15 Yuan King level auras locked onto Li Zongjiu and the other two in an instant. 1 Yuan did not stop them. These people from the Jiuhua sect actually dared to ignore the token of the Marquis of Wanyong's estate. Evidently, they had already reached a certain level of arrogance in this area. Because of this, 1 Yuan naturally would not let these people off so easily. Furthermore, he could tell that Li Zongjiu needed to unleash some of his power. The Jiuhua sect could be considered to have bumped into the barrel of a gun. The reputation of the Jiuhua sect was already very bad to begin with. It even gave people the impression that they were kings of a mountain. Therefore, 1 Yuan was happy to see such a scene happen. Who dares to be so presumptuous in my Jiuhua sect? Die! The aura between the newcomers converged, and this aura was directly directed at Li Zongjiu. If Li Zongjiu did not have much ability, his qi and blood would definitely be depleted under this move. Li Zongjiu took out his black dragon hammer and swung it in the air, releasing a black lightning bolt at these people. The lightning bolt instantly struck the leader. Ah! The leader's body was paralyzed on the spot. Then, the lightning bolt suddenly shot out and skewered the rest of the people. Boom! 15 deacons died one after another under this lightning bolt. Some people did not even see clearly who had attacked or how the other party had attacked. Before they could even arrive, the other party's attack had already landed. Boom! Oh my God! When the head disciple saw the 15 figures turn into ashes and fall from the sky, he instantly sucked in a breath of cold air. This scene was simply too exciting. The high and mighty deacons of the sect. They were turned into a pile of corpses in an instant. The culprit was a youth who was about the same age as him or even younger than him. At least, that was what it looked like. More than 10 deacons died. Ever since the Jiuhua sect was established, they had never encountered such a thing. The entire sect was shocked. They did not even need to summon anything like a command arrow. These deacons all had soul lamps placed around them to prevent them from dying outside. It was also convenient for the people of the Jiuhua sect to find the corpses and avenge them. Most sects would have such security facilities. As long as something happened to someone, people would immediately know. Now that all 15 soul lamps were extinguished in an instant, everyone knew that this was not a simple matter. Someone is attacking the sect. Quickly activate the 9 radiant sword formation. Some of the elders heard the news. They immediately summoned the other elders and activated the 9 radiant sword formation of the Jiuhua sect. After the formation was activated, one could see that the surrounding aura fluctuations were already quite intense. Immediately, 9 giant swords formed above the Jiuhua sect. Boom! The moment the sword energy formed, a terrifying vibration attacked. Wang! You're courting death. Above the 9 giant swords, there seemed to be a pair of eyes staring at Li Zongjiu below. When the people in Jiuhua City saw that the Jiuhua sect had released such a sword formation, they thought that it was a formation that would only appear when someone was attacking the sect. Who could be so brave? They actually dared to attack the headquarters of the Jiuhua sect in their territory. They actually forced the Jiuhua sect's 9 radiant sword town out. It's said that 3 primitive emperor powerhouses came to the Jiuhua sect for some reason. In the end, both sides fought. The 3 primitive emperor powerhouses didn't even touch the Jiuhua sect before they were destroyed by the 9 radiant sword formation. I heard about it too. It's said that they were killed with just 3 sword strikes. No one knows if they're dead or alive. These people also began to discuss with each other. Naturally, those who knew about this felt that it was very interesting. This time, there was someone who was reckless enough to challenge the 9 radiant sword formation. The only way out was to seek death. Everyone saw that. When the 9 radiant sword formation appeared, the 9 giant swords were arranged like the petals of a lotus flower. Suddenly, a figure rushed up to the 9 giant swords. No one knew what he was holding in his hand, but he suddenly smashed down on the swords. Boom! Everyone in Jiuhua City saw it clearly. The 9 swords of the 9 radiant sword formation were directly shattered by this lightning. The 9 radiant sword formation appeared for less than 5 minutes. It was to the extent that these 9 giant swords didn't even have time to display their might before they were destroyed. Everyone was dumbfounded with their mouths wide open. They didn't know what to feel when they saw the scene before them. Could it be that they were hallucinating? Or could it be that the Jiuhua sect was practicing on their own? Boom! When this powerful wave of air swept through the entire Jiuhua city, everyone knew that the scene before them wasn't a hallucination, but something that really happened. Fuck! The 9 radiant sword formation was destroyed. Is the Jiuhua sect going to be in trouble? Chapter 1072. Some of them realized how interesting the situation was and couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. They immediately flew to higher ground and tried their best to see what was going on. Some of them were very close. Li Zongjiu and the rest stood at the foot of the mountain. Even though the 9 radiant sword formation had been destroyed, these disciples that were on guard and some head disciples that had come out earlier were still alive. They had personally witnessed the monstrous scene from earlier. This was simply too frightening. That kid jumped into the sky and smashed down with his hammer. Then, the 9 radiant sword formation that they were so proud of was smashed into smithereens right before their eyes. No amount of words could describe how they felt at this moment. Then, they saw Li Zongjiu raise his hand. It seemed like he was going to do something with the hammer. What is he trying to do? Suddenly, Li Zongjiu smashed down with his hammer. Boom! In an instant, the ground shook and the mountain shook. The ground beneath Li Yun's feet also shook a few times. Then, a crack rapidly spread towards the Jiuhua sect's palace. Crack, crack. It was as if the mountain was collapsing. The entire Jiuhua sect's mountain was split in half. Rocks flew everywhere and trees fell. They fell to the sides. He split our sect in half. Fuck. Everyone who saw this scene sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Wan Yulan didn't expect Li Zongjiu to have such a fiery temper. With one hammer, he destroyed the Jiuhua sect. The vitality that they had accumulated for so many years was destroyed so easily. Li Zongjiu held the black dragon hammer in his hand. If he had this hammer when he attacked Qingyuan Mountain Villa back then, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. He could have easily solved many problems with just one hammer. I'll take this hammer as knocking on the door. Li Zongjiu put away the black dragon hammer in his hand. The three of them still stood on the spot and watched the mountain split in half. In fact, the Jiuhua sect had already been split into two halves. Even for Wan Yulan, it was her first time seeing someone split a mountain in half. Such a domineering power didn't allow for any doubts. It was terrifying. After this move, several tyrannical auras immediately rushed over from the mountain. They naturally felt that the power came from the foot of the mountain. Two primitive emperors appeared. No wonder the Jiuhua sect could control Jiuhua city. With two primitive emperors and that powerful array, it wasn't difficult for them to control a city. After all, the two primitive emperors weren't weak. Immediately, the two figures descended and arrived in front of Li Zongjiu. It was you who broke the 9 radiance sword formation. You destroyed my Jiuhua sect's mountain gate. Who are you? The two great primitive emperors had arrived, but they didn't dare to be too ferocious at this moment. After all, the other party had broken the 9 splendor sword formation with a single move, and then destroyed the mountain gate into 2. Just such strength was enough to make them wary, and they had to be on their guard. Therefore, they didn't dare to scold him directly. After all, with their strength, if they encountered the 9 radiance sword formation of their sect, it would be difficult for them to resist it, let alone break it. The strength of the person who came was definitely not to be underestimated. Your Jiuhua sect is really impressive. Even the name of the marquis residence of Wanyong doesn't work. Wan Yulan took a step forward and said. Wan Yulan was also a level 6 spiritual master, and her strength was only strong among the primitive emperors. Even her lethality wasn't that simple. She could take your life invisibly. Marquis residence of Wanyong. The two primitive emperors were the grand elders of the Jiuhua sect. This was because the sect master was really in seclusion. Therefore, the two elders naturally had to step forward when such a problem occurred. However, when they heard the words Marquis residence of Wanyong, they were both shocked. The Marquis residence of Wanyong represented the Haiku dynasty, which was the imperial court. Although the Haiku dynasty was now under the control of the Black Canal Basilica. If the Haiku dynasty wanted to deal with the Jiuhua sect, it would be very easy. Now that they had sent such an expert, could it be that they wanted to eradicate the Jiuhua sect? Sorry for the disrespect. We didn't know that the Lord of the Marquis residence was coming. Please forgive us for not going out to welcome you. How dare you disrespect the Lord of the Marquis residence? Immediately, the elders shouted angrily, scaring the disciples who were guarding the door. Cut the crap. Jiuhua City is your territory. Have you heard of the appearance of a force called Mount Wu? Li Zongjiu said calmly. He didn't have much time for small talk. He spent so much effort to call them out just to clarify this matter. Mount Wu. We have to investigate this matter. The two elders didn't seem to know much about this force called Mount Wu. They had never heard of it before, so they had to arrange for people to investigate. If you find it, inform us in the city. If you can't find it by today, I'll destroy your sect. Li Zongjiu said. The three elders immediately left. Since they didn't know anything, there was no need to waste time looking for other clues. They didn't need to continue wasting time here. Seeing the three elders leave so quickly, the two elders were stunned. The two grand elders of the Jiuhua sect seemed to be in a state of complete confusion. What's going on? They caused such a big commotion just to find someone. Is there something wrong with their heads? The two elders widened their eyes. They thought that there was some kind of deep grudge between them that made them want to destroy the Jiuhua sect. However, they didn't expect this to happen. They are such bullies. Do they really think that our Jiuhua sect is easy to bully? One of the grand elders was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. The way that Li Zongjiu and the others did things was insane. However, the guarding disciple who had witnessed everything from beginning to end knew very well what was going on. The reason why Li Zongjiu flew into a rage was because the senior brother did not allow them to go in and look for the sect master, nor did he inform the sect master. He wanted to get more benefits, but in the end, such a situation occurred. This time, he had offended someone that he couldn't afford to offend. This led to a series of events that happened later. Even the mountain was directly split apart. Of course, the guarding disciple didn't dare to say anything about such a serious offense. He cleverly kept his mouth shut. Hurry up and investigate this force called Mount Wu. Find out what's going on. The two grand elders appeared and took charge of the situation. The first elder who was in charge was severely injured by Li Zongjiu when he was setting up the sword array. Meanwhile, in Jiuhua City, news of Li Zongjiu's magnificent feat of breaking the sword array with chain lightning had spread. There were even some people who were able to deduce what was going on from this move. It must be the evil lord who was somewhat famous in the Black Canal Royal City. Only the evil lord's fighting style was like this. Chapter 1073. Evil Lord destroys the Jiuhua faction. Another resounding title immediately spread in the city. Some people who hadn't had the chance to watch the battle began to ask around, wanting to know more about it. They wondered what was going on. Without a doubt, Evil Lord's reappearance had set off a frenzy in the city. At least, these people had heard about him from the king's city. There was a godlike figure in the arena. Furthermore, they were all defeated in one move. Up until now, no one had been able to last more than 5 seconds against the evil dominator. Even the two strongest experts of the Hell Arena had died at the hands of this evil dominator. Later on, this evil dominator had disappeared without a trace. Back then, some people said that he was Li Zongjiu from the Shengyan dynasty, the evil lord. However, this theory was denied. The people of the Haiku dynasty believed that such a powerful evil lord must be a native master of the Haiku dynasty. Li Zongjiu merely imitated evil lord in some of his techniques. During the period when the evil dominator disappeared, there were also many people who imitated the evil dominator and used hammers to fight, wanting to achieve the effect of defeating the enemy in one move. However, they had never seen lightning bolts as powerful as the one released by evil lord. Now, in Jiuhua City, he saw the horrifying lightning energy again. After all, many masters had gathered in Jiuhua City, and many people had come from the king's city to search for the ruins of the Demon Suppression Palace. They hadn't been invited by the Black Canal Basilica, and they didn't know where the information that the Black Canal Basilica had leaked out was. Therefore, they could only ask around for information and try it out for themselves. They used their legs to find the path under their feet. Now, he finally found a tiny bit of hope here. After all, even Evil Lord was here. Since such a top-level master had paid attention to this place, it was needless to say that other people were here as well. Li Zongjiu and the other two sat in an inn. They asked for some food. After venting his anger, Li Zongjiu had calmed down. Although killing directly was a very efficient thing to do, at least it could reduce a lot of nonsense. He would just attack directly. However, if he went in the wrong direction, it would be futile no matter how many people he killed. Although I didn't have much contact with people from the Wu Mountain in my previous life, these people seem to all have fire meridians, and they have great control over fire elemental essence. If they come to the Haiku dynasty, they will definitely look for places with fire elemental essence. Li Zongjiu closed his eyes to think. There were 3 bowls of noodles on the table. However, Li Zongjiu did not touch his chopsticks, and neither did the 2 girls. Zongjiu, eat something first. Since there are no other clues, let's wait. Didn't Miss Wan say that there will be news within 2 days? Li Yun comforted him. She felt sorry for Li Zongjiu when she saw him like this. It was obvious that Li Zongjiu really took this matter to heart. If he really wanted to handle this matter, he would have to find the King of Fire. Anyone related to this matter would not be let off easily. Wan Yulan also looked at Li Zongjiu worriedly. If Li Zongjiu entered a state of obsession, it was very likely that it would have a negative impact on his realm. In a more serious case, it would be qi deviation. Li Zongjiu immediately opened his eyes. Well, I know. Let's eat the noodles. You must be hungry. Waiter, give me another roast chicken. Li Zongjiu shouted. Come, one roast chicken. Let's eat. The two girls looked at each other. They felt that Li Zongjiu's change was too fast. They even felt that it was a little strange. Otherwise, Li Zongjiu's ability to adjust himself was also quite amazing. Wan Yulan was the one who was truly shocked. The stronger a person's cultivation was, the more difficult it would be for them to walk out of their obsession. At the very least, it wouldn't be so easy for them to walk out of their obsession with just a blink of an eye. Therefore, Wan Yulan also admired Li Zongjiu very much. Your ability to adjust yourself is really strong. Wan Yulan said. I was too rash. I have already thought of a clue. In the vicinity, which sect is the strongest one that focuses on fire elemental energy? Li Zongjiu asked. With Wu Tian's character, it was impossible for him to keep a low profile. Although this kid kept a low profile, when he did something, everything he did was quite earth-shattering. Those that focus on fire elemental energy. Let me think. Wan Yulan was of course not by Shaosheng, so it was impossible for her to remember everything. If we were to talk about the strongest flame in the Black River region, it would definitely be our Li Fire sect. Why, are the three of you interested in joining us? As the three of them were discussing, they saw a few people dressed in red walk in. When they saw Wan Yulan and Li Yun, these people's eyes clearly lit up. It was such a waste for such a beautiful woman to be by the side of such a poor and pedantic brat. Such a peerless beauty naturally had to accompany him, the second disciple of the Li Fire sect and Nanming Peak. I'm Wu Jiang from the Li Fire sect's Nanming Peak. When Wu Jiang came close, he did not seem distant and directly sat opposite Li Zongjiu. There was only one seat left at the square table. If the two ladies are interested, with my status, I can recommend you to the sect. You will first be an ordinary disciple, and in 2 months, you will be promoted to inner sect disciples. In less than half a year, it will be easy for you to become an inner sect disciple. Wu Jiang said to the two ladies in a rather teasing manner. At the same time, he gave a provocative glance at Li Zongjiu in front of him. As for male disciples, our Li Fire sect will not consider them for the time being. If you insist on it, then we will arrange for them to be placed in the miscellaneous chores peak. If they are outstanding, they can become in-name disciples in 2 years. That would not be a problem. The two ladies expressed their helplessness towards Wu Jiang's words. Although Wan Yulan knew that there were many fools in the outside world, she never expected that they would encounter such fools just by eating a bowl of noodles in the noodle shop. How many people can you call? Li Zongjiu said to Wu Jiang as he looked at him. Wu Jiang was stunned. Why did he suddenly ask how many people he could call? It was a little strange. Was he trying to pick a fight? What's the matter, little brother? Do you want to learn from our Li Fire sect's abilities? Wu Jiang said contemptuously as he looked at Li Zongjiu. It was as if he was extremely disdainful. The main thing is that I want to learn from you. Li Zongjiu said seriously. Pa! Wu Jiang slammed the table and angrily stood up. He glared angrily at Li Zongjiu in front of him. The Li Zongjiu in front of him was extremely arrogant. He actually dared to be so presumptuous in front of him. However, the other party's sudden words made Wu Jiang's heart palpitate. He immediately stopped being arrogant. Instead, he said extremely fiercely to Li Zongjiu. If you have the guts, come to the Li Fire sect. I want you to see how many people I can call. Wu Zhang's eyes emitted a dangerous glint. All right, lead the way, Li Zongjiu said. The two women did not know why Li Zongjiu suddenly wanted to go to the Leaf Fire sect. Could it be that he had not walked out of his obsession? If that was the case, it would spoil the matter. All right. Of course, Wu Jiang could not swallow his pride. He immediately turned around and led his group of subordinates to leave. Wait a moment, Li Zongjiu suddenly said. Wu Jiang immediately gave a disdainful smile. If you're scared, kowtow to me and admit your mistakes and I'll let you off. No, let's eat first. If we don't eat the noodles we just ordered, it would be disrespectful to the chef, Li Zongjiu said. Then, he gestured for the two women to eat. The three of them completely ignored Wu Jiang and company. They ate the noodles and the roasted chicken in front of them. Later on, Li Zongjiu felt that it was not enough, so he ordered a bowl of kung pao chicken and spicy chicken. The three of them ate with relish. It was Wu Jiang and company who suffered. They had to watch Li Zongjiu and company eat under such circumstances. Senior brother, why don't we sit down and eat as well? Shut up, you good for nothing. When you come out to mingle, aura is the most important thing. Do you know that? Aura. Wu Jiang bellowed, teaching the people in front of him a lesson. Chapter 1074. The Leaf Fire sect was located not far from Jiuhua City. It was about 50 miles east. During this period, Wu Jiang and company were constantly using their footwork, shuttling back and forth between the ancient path and the forest. However, they realized that the three people behind them were basically following them closely, never falling behind. There was even a disciple who could not keep up with their speed, falling behind the three of them. The scene was extremely awkward. Wu Jiang knew in his heart that he had probably met an expert. Thankfully, he did not directly fight back at the noodle shop, or else, he might not have been able to beat the other party. However, looking at the sect right in front of him, Wu Jiang's heart was filled with glee. Now that he had returned to his own territory, he would have a certain advantage. No matter how arrogant this lad was right now, this was the furthest he could go. This is the Leaf Fire sect. Li Zongjiu and company landed on the ground. In a radius of 5 miles, there was rich fire elemental yuan energy gathered. It swirled around him, filling his entire body. He grabbed a handful of soil beneath his feet. There should be a spirit fire hidden under your Leaf Fire sect, Li Zongjiu said in surprise. Spirit fire? There's such a thing. Wu Jiang and company were panting heavily from exhaustion, but in front of Li Zongjiu, they tried their best to maintain a steady breathing. They did not want to expose themselves. Cut the crap. I'll call for people now. I'll show you my Leaf Fire sect's stance. Wu Jiang did not forget Li Zongjiu's arrogant manner from before. Now, the opportunity was here. Once they reached the Leaf Fire sect, none of them could escape. Wu Jiang immediately burned a yellow talisman. Boom! The yellow charm transformed into a beam of light that shot up into the sky. It flew towards the Leaf Fire sect's mountain. Seeing this scene, Wu Jiang crossed his arms in front of him. With a smug smile on his face, he stared at Li Zongjiu in front of him. Just you wait. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, there was an earth-shattering explosion. Following that, one of the Leaf Fire sect's mountain peaks was blasted to smithereens. Rich flames instantly swept over. It was like a huge wave of fire. The terrifying aura that permeated the surroundings caused Wu Jiang and the others, who were watching from below, to widen their eyes. Because the mountain that was blasted into pieces was Nanming Peak that Wu Jiang cultivated in. Fuck, Nanming Peak. Nanming Peak was bombed by someone. Li Zongjiu and the other two immediately became alert. Following which, one could clearly see that the fire elemental energy beneath their feet was rapidly converging towards the sky. Above the Leaf Fire sect, there was a figure that seemed to be absorbing the power of the flames below. How dare you encounter my Li Fire sect's treasure? Hand over your life. Immediately, Wu Jiang saw a few familiar figures of elders and peak masters dashing into the sky. It seemed like they were going to fight with the mysterious person. However, in an instant, the mysterious person's face changed. All the experts who had rushed into the sky were swept down directly. Bang! 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 Several figures suddenly fell from the sky. Master! Elder! Isn't that the sect master? Even the sect master has been defeated. The ferocity of the person who came was unimaginable to ordinary people. The sect master, who was usually high and mighty, was a nearly invincible existence. He was defeated in an instant. At the same time, the person in the sky was constantly absorbing the Li Fire sect's fire elemental energy. It was as if he wanted to snatch away the spirit fire hidden beneath the sect. I've finally found you. When Li Zongjiu saw the figure, he had already guessed who it was. Only when he attacked did Li Zongjiu clearly sense the person in front of him. He was the person that Li Zongjiu had been searching for all this time. All of you stay where you are. The moment Li Zongjiu's voice faded, his body shot up from the spot. He exploded with a speed that was hundreds of times faster than before, or even tens of thousands of times faster. Boom! What is that guy doing? Is he crazy? How can his speed be so fast? Wu Jiang and company saw Li Zongjiu rush into the sky. Was this guy a battle maniac? Why did he look so excited? It even felt a little scary. Hence, after seeing this scene, Wu Jiang could not help but say. However, the moment he saw Li Zongjiu rush into the sky, an extremely terrifying shockwave was produced. Boom! Immediately, an incomparably powerful vibration swept out and rushed towards the person who had just defeated the combined forces of their sect master and elders with a single move. Bang! When Wu Tian saw Li Zongjiu attacking, he used one hand to block in front of him, hoping to block Li Zongjiu. And Wu Tian's carelessness was in line with Li Zongjiu's intentions. He immediately exerted the strength in his hand. A black shadow burst out from the black dragon hammer. It bit off Wu Tian's arm. The explosion of the black dragon hammer made Wu Tian feel a powerful force. At the same time, he frowned at his left arm that was about to be bitten off. It's you. Wu Tian finally recognized Li Zongjiu. If Li Zongjiu had not saved the King of Fire in the Ghost King's secret realm that day, he would have already been defeated. He would have already subdued the King of Fire long ago. But this was also good. Keeping the King of Fire's life, he could integrate it into the peerless treasured sword and obtain a powerful force. It's me. I've been looking for you for a long time. Li Zongjiu stared into Wu Tian's eyes and said in a deep voice. Although Wu Tian's realm was higher than Li Zongjiu's, and he had even broken through to the second-grade sovereign realm, Wu Tian was still afraid of Li Zongjiu. But Li Zongjiu was not afraid at all. You'll have to work harder from now on. Wu Tian said coldly. A person who dared to provoke him time and time again would not be able to continue living. At the place where his broken arm was, a ball of flame condensed. Immediately, a new arm grew out of it. Facing Li Zongjiu's provocation, Wu Tian was very direct. He punched out from dozens of meters away. Boom! The earth shook. The air was torn apart. The terrifying force from the fist rushed out for hundreds of meters and landed on the ground with a loud bang, creating a deep pit with a radius of hundreds of meters. This pit was at least 7 or 8 meters deep. The things in the pit were already charred black. It was like a barbecue pit dug by a giant. What's going on? Who is that guy? Wu Jiang and the others widened their eyes and stared at Li Zongjiu in the sky. They could not believe their eyes. It was obvious that Li Zongjiu had forced the mysterious person who attacked the sect into a corner. That was why the other party was so ruthless. However, although the opponent's move was powerful, Li Zongjiu easily dodged it. Thousands of miles high in the sky, countless thunderclouds were attracted. Boom! Boom! Under the summoning of the black dragon hammer in Li Zongjiu's hand, countless lightning bolts descended from the sky. The entire sky seemed to turn into a world of lightning. One could vaguely see a gigantic black dragon swimming in the endless thunderclouds, constantly releasing lightning bolts. It was like a battle between gods. Looking at the people below, they were all astonished. How powerful and terrifying were these peerless experts? They were exchanging blows on top of their sections. One of the lightning bolts was dodged by the opponent, but it directly shattered another mountain in the Leaf Fire sect. Boom! It was enough to tell how powerful the two of them were. They were not to be trifled with. It was too terrifying. But if not for the person who rushed out and blocked the expert who wanted to absorb their sect's origin energy, the Leaf Fire sect would probably have been destroyed. Who is that person? Who invited this expert? The Leaf Fire sect master was sitting on the ground, adjusting his breathing. When he saw the battle between Li Zongjiu and Wu Tian, he was deeply shocked. He never expected that their Leaf Fire sect, which had been established for hundreds of years, would nearly be destroyed. The reason why you can fight me is because of the hammer in your hand. If you were to lose the hammer, I would like to see what else you can rely on. Wu Tian snorted coldly. Suddenly, he formed a seal with his hand and conjured a force, trapping Li Zongjiu. Most importantly, it also restricted the black dragon hammer in Li Zongjiu's hand. Wang! The black dragon hammer was sent flying tens of thousands of miles away by the opponent's kick. At the same time, he sent a palm strike at Li Zongjiu's head. Boom! Li Zongjiu circulated his energy, instantly shattering the restraining force around him. Li Zongjiu, who had escaped from the restraints. Similarly, he sent a move forward. Pagoda Palm. Chapter 1075. The power of his palm instantly whizzed out. The power of the two collided. From the center of the explosion, an incomparably tyrannical power could be seen sweeping out in all directions. Boom! The vibrating power almost reached a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Some of the Yuan beasts, who were still flying in the air, were easily torn apart by this force. Sky Wu retracted his fist. Just now, Li Zongjiu's palm had almost scattered his aura. Fortunately, the power in his body was strong enough, and he was able to gradually break down this move. If Li Zongjiu's move was a little stronger, he would probably be seriously injured. But in this state, Li Zongjiu should also be injured. At this moment, looking at Li Zongjiu's body, there was a golden light that was surging. Gradually, the injury just now calmed down. Your power, is this all you've got? Li Zongjiu looked at his opponent and said indifferently. His words were full of disdain. At this moment, the Golden Dragon Original Spirit's defense could be considered to be completely tyrannical. After Li Zongjiu used the 1,000-year-old Flood Dragon's blood to refine it, it was obviously more powerful. A trace of surprise flashed in Sky Wu's eyes. But more of it was indifference. It seemed that in Sky Wu's eyes, Li Zongjiu was just a weak challenger, and he was testing Li Zongjiu's ability. You're really a good opponent, but I don't have time to play with you. Sky Wu said indifferently. He stretched out his hand. In the palm of his hand, a terrifying flame immediately gushed out. The flame was cyan blue. It was full of destructive power. Li Zongjiu stared at it. Gue Lu Yen. The flame seemed to have turned into a ferocious person with a green face and fangs, flowing back and forth on the latter's body like a stream of water. Since you know him, I don't need to introduce him. The effect of the flowing ghost flames was quite vicious. Most importantly, the flames could refine souls. If one was infected, it would directly burn one's soul. If the liquid state of the flowing ghost flame was even denser, it meant that it had devoured even more spirit power. Naturally, its power would also be stronger. Do you think that you're the only one with a spiritual fire? Li Zongjiu opened his palm and released the towering flame from his body. Boom! The power of the obsidian flame and the towering flame had already merged into one. After all, the power of the obsidian flame was much weaker than the towering flame. He saw that Li Zongjiu had also summoned his spiritual fire. Sky Wu frowned. Li Zongjiu really had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. His strength wasn't that great, but when he used all kinds of power, Sky Wu felt very troubled. Then let's see how capable you are. Wu Tian coldly snorted, and the flowing ghost flame in his hand swept out towards Li Zongjiu. Boom! The terrifying flowing ghost flame turned into a long whip and swept towards Li Zongjiu's body. The towering flame in Li Zongjiu's hand also turned into a giant python. It swallowed the flowing ghost flame in one gulp. With the power of the towering flame, it incinerated the impure spirit power on the flowing ghost flame and easily refined it. Although the flame was simply released, it looked like a ball of flame was thrown out. In fact, there were very important details in the process. If one could grasp them well, they would definitely be able to defeat a stronger opponent. Li Zongjiu's control of the flame could be said to be at the level of Sky Wu's ancestor. 3,000 years of experience in his previous life was not for show. Therefore, Sky Wu's flowing ghost flame couldn't display its full strength in front of Li Zongjiu, and the power of the flowing ghost flame was constantly decreasing. It was constantly being weakened. Damn it! Sky Wu could clearly feel that the power of his flowing ghost flame had been burned by a lot. His opponent's control of the flame was actually above his own. What was the background of this young man? Suddenly, Sky Wu saw Li Zongjiu open his palm and put it in front of him. He couldn't help but be stunned. What was this brat trying to do? Ha! Sky Wu's gaze looked into the distance, and there seemed to be something quickly approaching. Boom! A black thing, surrounded by a ball of flame, quickly flew over from the distance. The flames around it weren't anything else, but because it was too fast, the friction between it and the air produced the flames. Bang! The black dragon hammer directly flew back. The black dragon hammer that had been controlled by Sky Wu and sent flying to some unknown place actually flew back on its own. It was hard to believe. Sky Wu also couldn't believe it. However, it happened. Purple heavenly thunder. Li Zongjiu pointed the black dragon hammer at the sky and immediately drew a force from the sky. Boom! With a loud sound, a thick purple heavenly thunder fell from the sky and accurately struck Sky Wu's body. Sky Wu couldn't move at all, and could only stubbornly resist such a force. Whoosh! Sky Wu's body was torn open by this force. Then, Li Zongjiu waved his hand. The towering flame wrapped around Gue Lu Yan's body and flew out. With a whoosh, it directly covered Sky Wu's body. The power of thunder and fire intertwined. Ah! Sky Wu's body was rapidly expanding. At this moment, the power in his body seemed to have reached the limit, and he was being burned by the power of thunder and fire, causing him to feel endless pain. Buddha palm. Once again, he used a move. With the power of thunder and fire, he locked onto Sky Wu. Once again, he used the Buddha palm to cover Sky Wu's body. Boom! Right on target. Instantly, the power of Sky Shaman was disintegrated into countless shards of power that scattered out into the world. The thunderclouds in the sky were rioting. At this moment, peace was restored. Li Zongjiu's body was in the air, and his face didn't look relaxed at all. Instead, he gritted his teeth and stared into the distance. How dare you play with me with a clone? Li Zongjiu's fist slightly tightened, and he put away the black dragon hammer. He reached out and grabbed a strand of Sky Wu's origin energy, sealed it in the space, and then threw it into the blood soul hell. What he just killed wasn't Sky Wu's body. It was just a clone that Sky Wu had refined. However, this clone was obviously very painstakingly refined, and during the process of fighting, Li Zongjiu couldn't distinguish the real one from the fake. In the end, when he destroyed Sky Wu, Li Zongjiu realized that Sky Wu wasn't strong enough. However, he destroyed Sky Wu's clone. At least, it was equivalent to destroying Sky Wu's 100 years of hard work. At least he got back some interest. His figure once again landed in front of Li Yun and Wan Yulan. Who was that? Li Yun hurriedly asked. His name is Sky Wu. He was the one who captured your master. Li Zongjiu said in a deep voice. Then my master? Li Yun and company had seen Li Zongjiu kill Sky Wu with their own eyes. It wasn't fake in the slightest. He had killed Sky Wu just like that. What I just killed was only his clone. However, your master should be safe for the time being. After destroying his clone, it will be even harder for him to accomplish certain things. Li Zongjiu said. Clearly, Sky Wu was looking for ways to constantly break through his own strength, so he went around searching for the power of the spiritual fire. This time, it was a coincidence. It just so happened that he came to the Li Fire sect and met Sky Wu. At the very least, it interrupted Sky Wu's plans. At the very least, Sky Wu would not be as happy as before. At least, Li Zongjiu was very satisfied with the current situation. Now, let's go back first and wait for the Demon Suppression Palace to appear. Li Zongjiu said. Alright. The two of them had witnessed Li Zongjiu's terrifying battle power. Under the aftermath of their battle, the Li Fire sect was completely destroyed. However, although the sect was destroyed, at least the lives of these people were saved. All of this was thanks to Li Zongjiu. Who are you people? Wu Jiang looked at the three people in front of him. Their strength was too abnormal. Just a moment ago. That arrogant person just now had actually beaten someone to death. He had directly crippled that person. It was unbelievable. Thankfully, they had not fought with these people in the noodle shop. If they had really fought, it was unknown how terrifying the outcome would be. The few of them would probably have turned into cold corpses. Wan Yulan glanced at Wu Jiang nonchalantly. Come to Wanyong Marquis residence to find me for your losses. Although Wanyong Marquis residents might not pay for it, nor might they be able to afford it. But at least they could express their stance. We're not here to bully you. Wanyong Marquis residents, seeing the three of them leave, Wu Jiang and company's eyes were filled with endless admiration. They were indeed experts. Chapter 1076. Li Zongjiu and the rest returned to the Black Canal Royal City and the Marquis residence of Wanyong. They didn't spend too much time on the road today. However, the situation before and after they returned had changed drastically. The outcome of these two major sects was almost equivalent to the destruction of these two major sections. Only Li Zongjiu could destroy these two major sects so easily. However, the people of the Jiuhua sect were worried from the beginning to the end. What if Li Zongjiu came looking for them again? Moreover, the Jiuhua sect still hadn't found the things that he had instructed them to do. Therefore, they felt that it was difficult to explain this matter. Moreover, they were still worried that Li Zongjiu might turn back halfway and ask them for something, but they couldn't take it out. What should they do? Although more than 10 deacons had died, it wasn't too bad that they were severely injured. Therefore, this loss was still acceptable. Of course, the most unfortunate thing was that the entire mountain was split into two. The fate of the entire sect was completely destroyed. However, when they found out that Li Zongjiu's identity was actually the evil lord, the people of the Jiuhua sect heaved a sigh of relief. At least this matter didn't continue to worsen. Otherwise, the entire Jiuhua sect would have been destroyed. Li Zongjiu and the rest returned to the Marquis residence of Wanyong. This time, they finally settled down. Although Wan Yulan followed them all the way, she didn't help much. However, after witnessing Li Zongjiu's battle today, she was indeed quite shocked. Previously, Li Zongjiu had fought with a Supreme Being expert from the Saint Flame Empire and had even slain the Supreme Being expert with a powerful battle record. However, she didn't see that scene with her own eyes. After witnessing the scene today, it could be said that he had truly experienced Li Zongjiu's power. The methods of that mysterious expert. He was at least at the pinnacle of the primitive emperor realm. Even pinnacle origin emperors might not be enough to fight with that mysterious person. However, in today's battle, it was Li Zongjiu who was suppressing the other party. It was indeed very impressive. All of you can stay here for the time being. If there's anything that is lacking in our hospitality, feel free to tell me at any time. Moreover, with your status, you can basically move about unimpeded within my Marquis Wanyong's residence. Wan Yulan said. You're welcome. We'll just stay here. That's great. Although I know you don't lack money, the accommodation in the city is still quite expensive. In addition, you have to pay attention to the people from Black Canal Basilica and the Sun family. Don't let them see you again, although they are more well-behaved now. Hearing Wan Yulan's advice, Li Zongjiu couldn't help but glance at Wan Yulan. What is it? Is there something on my face? Wan Yulan felt a little uncomfortable being stared at by Li Zongjiu and couldn't help but ask. When I first saw you, I didn't remember you being so wishy-washy. You. Hearing Li Zongjiu's teasing, Wan Yulan suddenly blushed. After being teased, Wan Yulan couldn't help but want to bite Li Zongjiu. After that, Li Zongjiu and Li Yun stayed in the Marquis Wanyong's residence. Is Master in a dangerous situation now? Li Yun asked. Who was that person just now? That person is called Wu Tian. I'm not very sure about his identity, but he is also the one who captured your master. Li Zongjiu said. What I killed just now was only his doppelganger. Looking at it now, I'm not very sure about the extent of his strength. Li Zongjiu said in a deep voice. This was also the first time Li Yun saw Li Zongjiu with such a dignified expression. One must know that it was rare to see Li Zongjiu so afraid of someone. Just now, Li Zongjiu used almost 80% of his strength and only managed to destroy one of Wu Tian's doppelganger. Just one doppelganger? What if he refined many doppelganger? Li Yun suddenly thought. That's enough. You shut up. Li Zongjiu suddenly became agitated. Although Li Zongjiu was a little worried that Wu Tian's strength would be hidden or even more powerful than he imagined, Li Zongjiu was confident in his heart. No matter how powerful he was, there would be a way to deal with it. However, Li Yun's mouth, with just a casual sentence, could cause a huge change in the situation. Therefore, he had no choice but to make Li Yun shut up. Aren't I just preparing for a rainy day? Li Yun was quite unhappy. How's your study of formations recently? Li Zongjiu glanced at Li Yun. King of Fire was a formation master and had taught Li Yun some knowledge of formations. Li Yun herself was talented in formations. In addition, Li Zongjiu had given her a remnant scroll of formations. If you were to talk about other things, I would be a little weak. But when it comes to formations, I already have 70% of master's skills. Hearing this made Li Yun proud of herself. Li Yun's entire body became spirited. That's good. Li Zongjiu just replied indifferently. Originally, Li Yun wanted to show off her skills. She didn't expect Li Zongjiu to brush it off so casually. Immediately, she felt like she was full of anger and had nowhere to vent it. Since you're good at formations, come with me and have a try. Li Zongjiu said. How? Li Yun suddenly became excited, her eyes shining. Let's go to the Qian family tomorrow. These people from the Qian family really don't know what's good for them. Li Zongjiu said. Since they were here, they should settle the previous accounts clearly. Li Zongjiu remembered these accounts clearly. The Qian family, the Zhang family, and this Black Canal Basilica. The most arrogant one was this Black Canal Basilica. They actually provoked Li Zongjiu time and time again and even sent an assassination team. This was what Li Zongjiu couldn't tolerate the most. They were too arrogant. If it weren't for Li Zongjiu's strength and the fact that these people from Black Canal Basilica were unscrupulous, they actually wanted to hurt Li Zongjiu's family and Qi Yanran. This was what made Li Zongjiu extremely unhappy. Li Zongjiu wanted to settle this account slowly. Even if the people from Black Canal Basilica didn't come to him, Li Zongjiu would still go to them. That night, in the Qian family. The Qian family was now completely under Qian Hailong's control. However, last time, the Zhang family insisted on going to the Qian family. They obviously couldn't handle Li Zongjiu's order, but they insisted on adding more money. In the end, the money was given, but the order couldn't be settled. Recently, it seemed that they didn't have the face to ask the Qian family for money. Although the storm had calmed down for a long time, Qian Hailong was still worried about this matter. This morning, he received the news that Li Zongjiu had rushed to the Black Canal Royal City. When Li Zongjiu arrived, he already brought a lot of pressure to them. Of course, Li Zongjiu didn't come to them directly. This made Qian Hailong breathe a sigh of relief. In the meeting, after everyone reported the recent performance of the family, they started to discuss Li Zongjiu's matter. Li Zongjiu isn't a kind person. From the information we received from the Shengyan dynasty, we can see that there's at least a force behind Li Zongjiu that can fight against a supreme being. It's definitely not easy to provoke them. An elder who had just been promoted by the Qian family said. He first gave everyone a heads up and reminded them of the seriousness of this matter. A supreme being. Although they had heard about it before, they were really shocked and they received the actual information. What other information is there? Qian Hailong asked. Now, he was the head of the Qian family. Thanks to Li Zongjiu, he was able to relax for the past month. However, under such circumstances, Li Zongjiu came again just as he was sitting on the throne. I heard that this person is extremely greedy and likes to extort. If he comes again, our only way is to prepare the money. Someone made a conclusion about Li Zongjiu's research. We don't have a life and death feud with Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu is very principled. As long as we are prepared, I believe we can settle it. We can't wait any longer. We'll send the money tonight. Qian Hailong knew how powerful Li Zongjiu was. If he waited until Li Zongjiu came personally, everything would be too late. Chapter 1077. That night, Qian Hailong overcame all difficulties. He directly asked someone to bring some extremely valuable items to the Marquis mansion to pay a visit to Li Zongjiu. Of course, he also wanted to send some gifts to the Marquis mansion. In the end, Qian Hailong and an elder arrived. This elder was Qian Hailong's confidant and was also an elder in charge of the Qian family's finances. He had great authority. Patriarch, is there really a need to do this? Cut the crap. Just follow me. Qian Hailong said seriously. This confidant had never seen Qian Hailong with such a serious expression. Moreover, it was extremely dignified, as though he was ready to go to the execution ground at any time. This caused the elder's heart to be slightly flustered. This was because Qian Hailong's expression looked as though he was about to go to the execution ground. This made people extremely nervous and worried. Finally, the two of them met Li Zongjiu and Li Yun in the courtyard where Li Zongjiu was resting. At the beginning, Li Yun was also fiddling with a few stones in the courtyard. After Qian Hailong saw them, he asked Li Yun respectfully. This was because he wasn't clear about Li Yun's identity. If he spoke carelessly and offended her, wouldn't it be troublesome? Why are you looking for my brother? Li Yun looked at the two of them curiously. You are from the Qian family, right? Why do I find your name familiar? Ah, right, just now Zongjiu said that you are from the Qian family. You came tonight. You have a good relationship. Immediately, Li Yun sized up Qian Hailong and Qian Hailong. Li Zongjiu didn't mention the matters of the Qian family to Li Yun. After all, these were trivial matters and there was no need to explain so much. It's hard to say. Qian Hailong smiled awkwardly. It was impossible for them to be friends. Li Zongjiu did such a thing to the Qian family. How could they still be friends? But if they were enemies, wouldn't that be courting death? Why are you guys here? Li Zongjiu heard the commotion outside and also walked out. Originally, he wanted to use his mental power to search around to see if there were any clues. It would be best if he could find some clues to find the King of Fire. Although he had severely injured the other party today. However, it was inevitable that Sky Shaman would have some other hidden means. In short, the longer King of Fire remained in his hands, the more danger he would be in. Just as he was about to make a move, he saw Qian Hailong and the others approaching. Elderly, it's been a long time since we last saw you. We've heard that you're here, so we came to see if there's anything we can do for you. We've been waiting for you for a long time. When Qian Hailong saw Li Zongjiu, he suddenly felt familiar with Li Zongjiu, which made Li Zongjiu think that he and Qian Hailong were very familiar with each other and that they had a good relationship. That's a little too much. If you have something to say, say it. Li Zongjiu frowned. Looking at Qian Hailong's face, which was full of flattery, he didn't look like a family head at all. He looked like a shameless flatterer. Even the elders couldn't stand it anymore. Boss, you're the family head of Heichu Royal City's Qian family. However, in front of Li Zongjiu, he was willing to become a flatterer. It was hard to believe that such a scene would happen. However, Qian Hailong didn't think that there was any problem. What are you talking about? Elderly, there's no need to be so polite with me. Hai Fu, let Elderly take a look. Qian Hailong said. Qian Haifu also walked up and handed over the storage ring in his hand to Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu glanced at Qian Hailong. You're quite smart. Li Zongjiu took the storage ring and realized that other than money, there were many precious items in it. There were some precious jade and protective amulets, all of which were of high quality. The protective amulet's effect was obvious. As long as one wore it, once one's body was locked on and the threat exceeded one's limit, it would be triggered. Or one could trigger it on their own. If one could bring more protective amulets with them, they would have more time to save their lives. Of course, in front of a real expert, it was best not to think about such things. They could take your life in a matter of minutes. There were a few items that showed Qian Hailong's sincerity. If one didn't have money, they wouldn't have been able to get these items. They looked good. At least, Li Zongjiu was satisfied. Of course, what made Li Zongjiu the most satisfied was the latter's attitude. He took the initiative to apologize and even brought such valuable gifts. With such a sincere attitude, even if Li Zongjiu wanted to teach him a lesson, he couldn't do it. Have a seat. Li Zongjiu said straightforwardly. Since the other party was so sincere and even gave him so many valuable gifts, it was only natural that he had to treat him well. Qian Hailong and Qian Hailong sat down a little bashfully. They felt a little restrained before Li Zongjiu, as if they were children. Qian Hailong was the family leader of the Qian family. Over the years, as the great elder of the Qian family, he had seen a lot of things and had seen a lot of things. However, before Li Zongjiu, his presence was severely lacking. Elderly, the matter of the family leader of ancient Zhang was arranged by Qian Tianding. It has nothing to do with the Qian family. We've already cancelled the deal many times, but the ancient Zhang family refused to accept it no matter what. They even increased the price. Don't you think that they've gone overboard? When Qian Hailong mentioned the matter, he was very angry. Go back now and use the resources of the Qian family to help me find a force of power called Wushan. If you find him, we'll let bygones be bygones. Li Zongjiu said. When he heard the words let bygones be bygones, Qian Hailong immediately shuddered. He could not believe that there was such a good thing in the world. Elderly, don't worry. Leave this to the Qian family. We'll do it right away. Once Qian Hailong found an excuse, he stood up and said that. Then, he left without stopping. The speed at which he walked was simply astounding. Why do these people look like they're running away? Li Yun could not help but ask. She had wanted to make some tea, but by the looks of it, there was no need for that. I don't know either. These people's clothes don't look like simple people. How did you get to know them? The last time I came, I dismissed their family leader and let this person take over. Li Zongjiu said faintly. When she heard Li Zongjiu's words, Li Yun widened her eyes in disbelief. Aren't you being too nosy? You even want to meddle in the family leader's affairs? Later on, Li Yun found out that the Qian family was one of the top 10 family clans in the Black Canal royal city. Furthermore, it was one of the top families in terms of strength. Even a person with such strength appeared in such a state in front of Li Zongjiu. Li Yun could not help but exclaim in amazement. Just as Li Zongjiu was using all his forces to search for news of Wushan and the King of Fire. 10,000 miles away from the Li Fire sect, there was a city that was leaning on the edge of a volcano. This city should have been very lively, or at least a little bit lively. However, at this moment, the city was dead silent. There was no sign of life. The city's surrounding walls had several array formations set up. These array formations were resonating with each other. They formed a large force that enveloped the entire city, preventing any external forces from approaching it. Furthermore, the entire city was hidden. Unless one personally came to the city, it was impossible to find the city using any other method. It was as if the city had disappeared from its original spot, as if it had been hidden by a great divine power. Dozens of black-robed men stood in the middle of the city, guarding against their surroundings. And the person they were guarding was a red-haired woman dressed in a red robe. The 18 chains bound the red-haired woman, and a surge of power flowed through the chains and into the red-haired woman's body. It was this constant suppression that allowed them to control the King of Fire's strength. The King of Fire's face was pale, but his eyes were abnormally resolute. He had seen all sorts of situations over the years, so this bit of pain was nothing. Soul Incineration Array, the King of Fire looked down. At this moment, she was sitting in the Soul Incineration Array. She was trapped in the Soul Incineration Array. The King of Fire also had a lot of time to think. He recalled the happy times he had in the Sacred Fire Royal City. The Fire Wraith King's entire life was empty. He couldn't find anything to do. He had an infinite lifespan and power that kept increasing. Out of boredom, he created the world of order in the underground black market. Only when she was with Li Zongjiu would she be able to leave a deep impression on her. Everyone has their own destiny. This is my destiny. The King of Fire looked up into the sky. It extended beyond the endless firmament. Chapter 1078. Intelligence from all sides was constantly circulating. Very quickly, someone discovered that something was amiss. If it was any other time, it would be really difficult to discover. However, this time, the Qian family could be said to have used all of their strength. They were not willing to give up even the slightest clue. Finally, he found something that wasn't quite right. After sending someone to investigate, Qian Hailong immediately sent someone to deliver this information to Li Zongjiu. Feiyue City. This city is quite remote, and very few people will pay attention to it because there are no resources here, and the surrounding volcanoes can erupt at any time. Therefore, there are not many people in the city, and there is relatively little cooperation with the outside world. Wan Yulan replied. After Li Zongjiu received this information, he directly went to Wan Yulan and asked Wan Yulan to give him a certain answer. But now, it seemed that it was most likely in this place. Looks like this is their hiding place. How audacious of them to take control of an entire city. How arrogant. Li Zongjiu's eyes flashed with a cold light. You mean, they might have occupied a city? Even Wan Yulan was shocked by Li Zongjiu's speculation. Such behavior was almost provoking the Haikou dynasty and Black Canal Basilica. Although the Black Canal Basilica was a group of shameless and greedy people, it was precisely because of the Black Canal Basilica's greed that others could not take away half of the benefits from their hands. Unless there was no other choice, there was no way to defeat them. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. Li Zongjiu said. I'll go there myself. I'll go too. Li Yun stood up and said, if the other party has occupied the city, they must have set up a defensive formation. Maybe they have already dealt with Black Canal Basilica. Okay, just don't talk too much. The two of them were about to set off again. Wan Yulan quickly said, I'll send someone to help you. There's no need to trouble yourself. If there's really a situation, even if your people go, they won't be able to help. Li Zongjiu said. Even if Wan Yulan went in person, she might not be able to help. Immediately, Li Zongjiu and Yi Qingyu boarded the Eagle battleship and soared into the sky. Boom! Many experts caught sight of this figure. Everyone gasped in surprise. The speed of this silhouette was incomparably fast. Even primitive emperors could not catch up to it. It would require at least primitive emperors to catch up to it. Immediately, the attention of the Marquis of Brave Thousand Marquis Manor rose. Everyone was staring at the Marquis of Brave Thousand Marquis Manor. Clearly, the Marquis of Brave Thousand Marquis Manor was about to stir up trouble. They had already contacted many forces in the imperial court. Clearly, under the imperial court's instructions, they had begun to gather their forces. Even the military power in the north and south had been shaken. Gradually, they closed in on King City. They had even contacted many forces in the underworld secretly. A storm was gradually brewing. Black Canal Basilica had already noticed this long ago. However, they were not in a hurry to deal with Marquis residents of Brave Marquis. After all, there were so many things to do now. They did not have the time to deal with them for the time being. Once they were done with this, they would let Marquis residents of Brave Marquis and the people in the royal family know. Feudal resistance was futile. The Eagle battleship was extremely fast. When Li Yun inspected it, she found that the battleship was a little worn out. Obviously, the quality of the materials was still not enough. In addition, the rate of wear and tear was a little high recently, which led to such a situation. Whoosh! Just as the battleship was about to fly near Feiyue City, a strong light suddenly swept over from afar. Wang! The defensive shield automatically opened and resisted the attack. At the same time, the Eagle battleship shook violently. We've been attacked. The direction of the attack is from that city. Li Yun said. Return the favor. Li Zongjiu said faintly. This was a little arrogant. They actually dared to take the initiative to attack Li Zongjiu. Although Li Yun was the only pilot and could not enter a combat state, it was not a problem for her to release one or two attacks. From the Eagle battleship, a cannonball was suddenly fired. This cannonball was a kind of powerful offensive weapon provided by the Song family. Once it was released, the shockwave of the explosion would affect the area within 100 miles. It was called the Shaker. Boom! The vibrator exploded in an instant. Li Yan was not careless either. When she attacked, she did not hold back at all. But when this horrifying power spread out, however, when the shockwave spread out, the two of them were surprised to find that there seemed to be a transparent energy curtain in the sky above Feiyue City. It blocked the shockwave that was full of destructive power just now. Li Zongjiu frowned. It's a formation. After Li Yan analyzed the situation, she immediately exclaimed in surprise. At the same time, she carefully observed the structure and effect of the formation. Immediately, a trace of shock flashed in her eyes. It's a level 7 formation, Emperor's Prison. This is a trap formation. A level 7 formation. Wouldn't that mean that only an utmost exalted level expert would be able to break through it? Was he really that arrogant? He actually used such a powerful cultivation in formations to create a trapping formation instead of a killing formation. Are they trying to trap someone? Immediately, Li Zongjiu released his mental strength to check it out. However, he was directly blocked by a force. Even Li Zongjiu's mental strength could not break through. It must be here. After searching for so long, he finally found it. Immediately, Li Zongjiu rushed out with the hammer without hesitation. He flew to the sky above the city. Looking in from the outside, he could not see anything. Break! Facing the protective shield below, Li Zongjiu swung the black dragon hammer in his hand. He directly smashed it down. Boom! The destructive power was released, but it just kept rolling around the protective shield. The power spread out and was directly absorbed by the shield. It can't be broken. Before Li Zongjiu could recover from his shock, he already felt the power transmitted from the protective shield. It almost sent Li Zongjiu flying. This was the power released by Li Zongjiu just now. All of it was fed back to Li Zongjiu. Immediately, Li Zongjiu retreated quickly and landed back on the Eagle battleship. This formation can't be attacked by force. Wait for a while, I'll find their weakness. Li Yun said quickly. Li Zongjiu looked at Li Yun in surprise. Previously, she said that this was a 7th level formation. However, since Li Yun said so, Li Zongjiu believed that Li Yun could do it. In Feiyue City. In response to the sudden uninvited guests, the black-clothed men in the city immediately gathered. Except for the 22 men guarding the King of Fire, the rest gathered on the city wall. Separated by the defensive formation, they observed Li Zongjiu and the others. The fluctuations just now directly consumed 1/10 of the formation's energy. Therefore, they could not let Li Zongjiu continue to attack. Kill them. There were nearly 30 black-clothed experts present. They were gathering their strength at the same time. Under the overlapping power of several people, this power directly gushed out. Boom! Several rays of light broke through the defense and blasted toward Li Zongjiu and the Eagle warship. Li Zongjiu directly shook his body and turned into a golden light. The golden Yuan dragon protected his body, and the huge Yuan dragon easily blocked these energy attacks. At the same time, Li Zongjiu also gave the other party an appropriate counterattack. If they kept waiting in place, sooner or later, the other party would find an opportunity and then break through in one fell swoop. The golden dragon's true spirit kept hitting the protective shield, bringing invisible pressure to the people under the shield. It kept attracting the firepower. Li Yun did not let Li Zongjiu down. There, attack the side with all your strength. That's the weakest part of the defensive shield. Li Zongjiu had almost pulled out the moment Li Yun spoke, and his figure instantly rushed to the front. Purple heavenly thunder. Receiving the power of heaven and earth, the black dragon hammer immediately erupted with a terrifying aura. The thunder clouds in the sky condensed and changed, and suddenly, a purple thunderbolt fell from the sky. Boom! As soon as the attack landed, the defensive barrier in front of him was immediately shattered. Even the people in the city did not expect this. Their defensive barrier had been destroyed so quickly. King of Fire. The moment Li Zongjiu split open the defensive shield, he roared toward the city. His voice was like countless thunderbolts exploding above the city, echoing without anyone noticing. The exhausted King of Fire opened his eyes just as he was about to faint. He was ready to give up struggling. However, when the Fire Wraith King heard this voice, it was as if a new life force had been injected into him, instantly waking him up. Li Zongjiu. The King of Fire called out in his heart, thinking that he had misheard. In the next moment, a mental power swept across the King of Fire's body. The King of Fire's body trembled slightly. It was Li Zongjiu. Chapter 1079. Almost instantly, Li Zongjiu had already locked onto the King of Fire's figure. He finally found him. When they saw Li Zongjiu's actions, the dozens of black-robed men in front of him also took out their weapons. They were all strange weapons, and directly rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Boom! The black-robed men besieged Li Zongjiu one after another. Everyone's strength was at the level of primitive emperor, and the strongest three of them had reached the peak of primitive emperor realm. The rest were basically at the mid-stage or late-stage primitive emperor realm. Dozens of terrifying auras closed in on Li Zongjiu, trying to force Li Zongjiu down. Get out of my way. These experts in front of him were obviously Wu Tian's subordinates. Boom! After a head-on clash, these people in front of him were also quickly defeated. However, the remaining people were also quite desperate. This kind of fighting style was basically as if they didn't care about their lives. They directly rushed towards Li Zongjiu. However, in the face of absolute power, no matter how many there were, it was futile. Blood Dragon Soul. Li Zongjiu didn't have time to be entangled with these people here. He activated the power of his original spirit and advanced triumphantly, completely defeating the people in front of him. Boom! Boom! Many black-robed men's figures flew out one after another. After falling to the ground, they directly lost their combat power. Trap him. The three-peak primitive emperor realm experts were extremely troublesome. They resisted the power of Li Zongjiu's original spirit, and they also formed hand seals. The stone slabs of the houses below began to vibrate with their movements. They all rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. In the blink of an eye, these stones and bricks wrapped in original spirit directly trapped Li Zongjiu within, unable to break free. Trying to trap me. Li Zongjiu was trapped by this stone formation. Immediately, a burst of power suddenly erupted. Li Zongjiu's fists continuously bombarded the bricks in front of him. Bang! The other party's binding technique was instantly shattered. Buddha Palm. Gue Lu Yen. The three black-clothed experts simultaneously released their essence force, and within their essence force was a terrifying flame. Gue Lu Yen. Playing with fire in front of your grandfather. A bunch of idiots. Li Zongjiu immediately let out a cold snort. He took the lead with the Buddha palm, sending one of them flying with a single palm strike. At the same time, he executed sky-reaching flame, suppressing the flowing ghost flame that the three of them had unleashed. He lightly flung the flowing ghost flame into the distance, causing it to wrap around the incoming flowing ghost flames. After making a circle, it flew back. So, when one of them saw the flames, he actually turned around and flew back. He was stunned for a moment. In the next second, he was surrounded by flames. His body was instantly incinerated. Seeing that something was amiss, the remaining person also flew towards the center of the city. Now that all the people around him had been killed, even if he continued to stay here, he would not be a match for Li Zongjiu. Now, only the 22 masters guarding the King of Fire were left. Humph. Li Zongjiu immediately chased after him. When the other party was about to land, he was directly caught by Li Zongjiu. When he was in mid-air, he was directly torn in half. Fresh blood splattered in the air. I told you not to run around. Look, you made me look for you for half a day. When Li Zongjiu saw that the King of Fire was still safe and sound, he also breathed a sigh of relief. What he was most afraid of was that when Li Zongjiu found the King of Fire, the latter would already be a corpse. In that case, even if he killed all these people, it would be useless. I thought you wouldn't come. The King of Fire also said faintly. She had only left for less than half a year. Li Zongjiu's growth speed was really terrifying. In less than half a year, he had grown to such a level. With this momentum, even if she wanted to defeat Li Zongjiu, it would not be easy. Li Zongjiu's gaze fell on the chains that trapped the King of Fire. His eyes suddenly became extremely cold. You guys are really bold. Don't leave today. Come together. Li Zongjiu said lightly. The remaining 22 masters were responsible for guarding the King of Fire, so they did not participate in the attack formation or the battle in the city. Now that they saw Li Zongjiu, they took the initiative to meet him. It seemed that if they wanted to take the King of Fire away, they would have to kill Li Zongjiu. 2 of them were still sitting on the steps, motionless. The remaining 20 people lined up and rushed towards Li Zongjiu. The 20 people burst out with their aura. The whole world shook violently. It was as if an indomitable giant had appeared. Its vast aura was like a mountain pressing down on Li Zongjiu. Dragon Soul. Boom! The golden dragon original spirit burst out instantly. It used its huge body to resist the tyrannical aura in front of it. It was full of overbearing aura. Roar! Then, the golden dragon original spirit moved violently and crazily hit the mountain that was condensed by the aura. Boom! The aura condensed by the 20 peak origin emperors was instantly broken. As for the golden dragon Yuan spirit, it had also dimmed a little. However, its aura was still soaring to the heavens. This crushing force was enough to make people palpitate. However, the 20 people were unmoved. The black-clothed experts revealed their figures and attacked Li Zongjiu. An earth-shattering elemental energy attack, along with countless energy waves, descended upon Li Zongjiu. The Yuan force in Li Zongjiu's hand vibrated. The black dragon hammer smashed out suddenly. Immediately, the terrifying thunderbolt force rushed out. However, the opponent's reaction was extremely fast. The power of the 20 people was instantly strung together. They actually took the initiative to break down the thunderbolt force of the hammer. They blocked Li Zongjiu's hammer and came out unscathed. Blood Soul Hell. It was always a waste of time to be surprised in a battle. It was all some useless actions. Only by killing people would there be enough time to make other expressions. Therefore, Li Zongjiu directly summoned the Blood Soul Hell and enveloped the 20 black-clothed experts. Boom! The 20 people were immediately drawn into the Blood Soul Hell. Obviously, these people weren't easy to deal with. They started to attack the Blood Soul Hell in an orderly and organized manner. Do you really think that I can't do anything to you? The ancient demon clan that was subdued in Qingyuan Villa had long become the blood demon of the Blood Soul Hell. At this moment, they revealed their figures. Together with the life and death servant from before, they were all refined by Li Zongjiu. Many forces entangled the 20 black-clothed experts in front of him. At the same time, the blood dragon original spirit also came out to take charge. Li Zongjiu took the time to severely injure one of them and then retreated from the Blood Soul Hell. At this moment, there were only 2 people in front of him. Be careful. These 2 people have thought it through and their cultivation has reached the first-grade sovereign realm. Chapter 1080. King of Fire reminded him. Li Zongjiu's performance just now also surprised King of Fire. He had made such a breakthrough in such a short time. However, he still had to be careful when facing these 2 enemies who had figured out their heart acupoints. Li Zongjiu also noticed that the state of the 2 people in front of him was different. Even the movements and aura of their movements were very similar. It could even be said that they were exactly the same. Immediately, the 2 people drew their swords at the same time. They slashed towards Li Zongjiu with their swords. Although the 2 people attacked at the same time, it seemed as if there was only one sword. The sword swept over. The black dragon hammer in Li Zongjiu's hand turned into a wild dragon and smashed towards the 2 people. Originally, this sword chi was going to rush towards Li Zongjiu. At this moment, seeing Li Zongjiu attack, it also adjusted the sword chi to collide with Li Zongjiu's black dragon hammer. Unexpectedly, the black dragon hammer turned into a black dragon and easily avoided the sword chi of the 2 people, rolling towards one of them. Boom! The black dragon hammer instantly rolled up the other person's body, which was equivalent to giving the latter a close-range hit. It directly sent the person flying. Boom! Li Zongjiu was also hit by the two-sword chi at the same time. However, the golden dragon original spirit was behind him and easily defended against this move. In fact, it only looked easy on the surface. The real force that he had to bear was quite huge. The golden body protection dragon pattern on the surface of his body also faintly showed signs of cracking. If the heavy blow just now came a few more times, it was very likely that Li Zongjiu's defense would be broken. Of course, Li Zongjiu was injured, and the other people were definitely not any better. A black dragon directly rolled one of them hundreds of meters away and finally smashed into the ground with a bang. An extremely terrifying fluctuation erupted. The person in the ruins was still pressed down by a hammer. It seemed that it would be difficult for him to get up for a long time. Shua! The other person did not go to the rescue. In their estimation, Li Zongjiu was already seriously injured and was now an arrow at the end of its flight. As long as they applied a little more pressure, he would definitely break. Boom! Just as the sword was about to strike, Li Zongjiu also let out a low roar. He stretched out his hands and grabbed at his opponent's sword. The sword chi surged, and the huge sword chi kept attacking Li Zongjiu's hands. Just as the two sides were in a deadlock, Li Zongjiu's body suddenly felt a strong surge of energy. He quickly added in. Li Zongjiu immediately sneered and increased the strength of his hands, easily destroying the latter's weapon. Clang! The sword in his hand was broken. Li Zongjiu also struck out with a Buddha's palm when his opponent's palm struck out. Bang bang! Both of them were hit by each other's palm at almost the same time. Li Zongjiu's body shook, and energy kept coming in. This was the blood soul hell, which was refining the black-clothed people. Compared to Li Zongjiu's body, it only shook a little. On the other hand, the opponent's body was directly shattered by this palm. Puff! Only his head was left intact, and it fell from the sky. The remaining person also struggled to get out of the black dragon hammer's entanglement. When he saw that his companion had been beaten to such a state, he couldn't help but sigh. Suddenly, a cold light flashed in his eyes. What he did was not continue to attack Li Zongjiu, but rushed to the front of King of Fire's formation. Then his body quickly collided, and he actually wanted to explode his origin energy. You're courting death. Li Zongjiu directly used his mental energy to wrap the person in front of him, and instantly transported him tens of thousands of meters away. The moment he withdrew his mental energy, a loud bang suddenly came from tens of thousands of meters away. Suddenly, there was a chaotic impact in his mind, and he took a few steps back. Although his body was shaking, he still stood firm in the end. You're really ruthless. Li Zongjiu shook his head and could not help but say. King of Fire looked at Li Zongjiu in surprise. He did not expect Li Zongjiu's strength to be so strong. Your strength has improved quite fast. Back then, when the Fire Wraith King caught Li Zongjiu in his domain, the latter had a vigilant look on his face. But now, Li Zongjiu's strength was enough to defeat her easily. How do I break this thing? Li Zongjiu's face was a little pale. After all, it was the self-detonation of a Supreme Being realm expert. Although he was instantly transported tens of thousands of meters away, his mental energy could not escape so quickly. Even if it was only a little bit, it would affect his entire mental energy. After swallowing a qi-calming elixir, Li Zongjiu adjusted his mental energy slightly, and it relieved the pain in his mind. Master! Li Yun also descended from the sky. She did not stay idle just now, and also destroyed several formations in the city. The surrounding array formations were also quite dangerous. Therefore, Li Yun also directly destroyed the formations when there was a gap. If the opponent condensed the formations again, and the big formation was activated, the consequences would be unimaginable if there was an expert guarding it. Fortunately, it went smoothly. This is the soul burning formation. When Li Yun saw the King of Fire, she was excited, and looked at the formation in front of her. The surrounding soul burning pillars were quite obvious. Yes, it's the soul-burning formation. The King of Fire said. Li Zongjiu looked at the surrounding pillars, and there were alternating black and red colors on them. This is the soul-burning pillar, a formation that is specially used to refine the souls of sovereigns for one's own use. It is a formation that can even forcefully extract a person's soul. It is quite cruel. Li Yun took a deep breath and said. She knew in her heart that the King of Fire must be in great pain at all times for such a vicious formation. The red color is Master's spiritual energy. If the red color on these 8 soul-burning pillars reaches the top, Master's soul will be completely separated from his body. Li Yun looked at Li Zongjiu and said. Li Zongjiu frowned. Looking at the soul-burning pillars. How about we just break them? No, that won't do. If that's the case, Master's soul will become a dead soul. Li Yun quickly shook her head and said. The only way is for me to break the formation. But it will take me at least 7 days. If I can't break the formation in 7 days, Master will not be able to hold on. The King of Fire looked at the two of them. It's good enough that I can see you. Go ahead. The soul-burning formation is a level 9 formation. Li Yun, with your strength, it is not enough for you to understand it. The King of Fire said softly. Level 9 formation. Li Zongjiu's heart sank to the bottom. Although they had found the Fire Wraith King, they still couldn't rescue him from the formation. No, there must be a way. Li Zongjiu would not give up. So what if it is a level 9 formation? Since Li Yun can't break it, I will go and catch a level 9 formation master. If Li Yun could not break it, there would naturally be others who could. But at the moment, they had to protect the King of Fire. Give me 3 days. 3 days later, I will definitely bring him here. Even if I have to catch Wu Tian, I will definitely save you. Chapter 1081. Li Zongjiu was extremely determined. At this moment, it was undoubtedly dangerous for the King of Fire to stay here. However, Li Zongjiu had no choice but to leave the King of Fire here for the time being. At the same time, he had Li Yun stay behind to look after him. At the same time, Li Zongjiu was also searching in his mind. Where could there be a level 9 array master? Li Zongjiu used his mental strength as a fulcrum and directly pierced through the space in front of him. Using this method, he achieved the effect of teleportation. Jiuhua sect. This was the largest sect in the vicinity. If he were to fly back to the Black Chu Imperial City, it would take a lot of time. Therefore, Li Zongjiu directly threw a knife at the Jiuhua sect. At this moment, the Jiuhua sect's mountain gate was split in half. The sect master had just come out of seclusion. Faced with this, the 2 grand elders had no way to explain themselves. The sect master of the Jiuhua sect was even more enraged. He immediately gave the order to remove the 2 grand elders from their positions and put them in solitary confinement. Those who knew about the situation all pleaded for mercy. Naturally, they couldn't be blamed for this. Alright, enough. Even the mountain gate has been split into this state. How can you still have the face to speak? Boom! A muffled thunder-like sound came from the sky. Then, a domineering aura blasted into the newly built hall. Who dares to barge into my Jiuhua sect's main hall? The Jiuhua sect master was enraged. Barging in like this was clearly a rebellion. How could he let the intruder leave safely? No matter who you are, I'll take you down first. It's evil lord. The 2 grand elders saw Li Zongjiu's figure. It was so familiar that he actually appeared in front of them. They were just talking about Li Zongjiu, and Li Zongjiu appeared. It was unbelievable. Could it be that Li Zongjiu had been loitering nearby all this time? So, you're that evil lord? How dare you destroy my sect? Today, as the sect master of the Jiuhua sect, I'm going to... Bang! Li Zongjiu stepped forward and punched him in the face. Instantly, the head of the Jiuhua sect master was sent flying. Bang! Blood immediately gushed out from the broken neck. He was the sect master of the Jiuhua sect. A 6th stage primitive emperor expert. He had actually lost his life to Evil Lord's punch. He didn't have any strength to fight back. This was where Li Zongjiu's strength lay. If he wanted to kill someone, Li Zongjiu had always been straightforward, without any superfluous words. With the death of the sect leader, the scene immediately quieted down. Everyone looked at Li Zongjiu. Looking at the dead sect leader, he sucked in a breath of cold air. I don't want to hear any more nonsense. Li Zongjiu's murderous aura was very strong. As soon as he said this, everyone didn't even dare to breathe loudly. They all stood there quietly, waiting for Li Zongjiu's question. I want you to provide me with the information and name list of all level 7 to level 9 array masters. Li Zongjiu said calmly. Speaking of these sets, the first thing they had to do was to train their disciples to have the ability to recognize experts. After all, they were all in this line of work. If they didn't recognize those experts and accidentally offended them, then the consequences would be very tragic. For example, if they encountered Evil Lord, the outcome would be obvious. However, this Evil Lord had only become famous for a short while, so he wasn't included in the list. Therefore, it wasn't popularized so quickly. This was because these people who suddenly became famous often had a high chance of dying quickly. Therefore, not to mention the entire continent, there were only a few experts in the entire dynasty. Although they didn't know why Li Zongjiu was in such a hurry to find these qualified array masters, now that even the sect leader had been killed by him, they naturally had to get things done quickly. Originally, the two supreme elders were a little afraid of Li Zongjiu. However, after Li Zongjiu killed the sect leader, who had indiscriminately put them in confinement, they felt a lot better. Therefore, it was better not to be too arrogant. It was best to keep a low profile as much as possible. Go and bring the recently updated Hall of Fame here. One of the supreme elders hurriedly said. Take the body away. Since the sect leader has unfortunately passed away, the great elder will temporarily take over the sect's affairs. After the new sect leader is elected, the handover will be done. Go and pour some tea. The great elder quickly poured a cup of tea for Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu didn't drink it. He just stood there quietly. Every second seemed so long, making people feel incomparable torment. After a while, someone immediately came over with a jade scroll. The Hall of Fame was also the information collected by these people about some extremely famous experts in the underworld. Among them were extraordinary top experts. Lord Evil Lord, they are all here. According to the information we have collected so far, there doesn't seem to be any level 9 array masters. However, there are 2 level 8 array masters. As for level 7 array masters, there are 6 of them. Level 6 array masters were enough to deal with primitive emperors. However, there were also differences in strength. Level 7 array masters were equivalent to the supremacy realm. However, in order to truly block a supremacy realm expert, a level 8 array master was needed. After all, there was no supremacy realm in the array master realm. Therefore, level 8 and level 9 array masters corresponded to mid-stage and late-stage supremacy realm experts. If it were in the Shengyan dynasty, there probably wouldn't be a single level 8 array master. Even the King of Fire was only a level 7 array master. He could barely be considered a level 8 array master. In the previous array, although Li Yun could find the array's weakness, she didn't have the ability to break the array. Therefore, Li Yun's strength should be at level 5 or level 6. For ordinary people, such a result was enough to be proud of. However, in the Haiku dynasty, it was very mediocre. Oh right, I remember that we received news that a level 8 array master will arrive in Jiuhua City in a few days. He seems to be here for the demon suppression ruins. The first elder suddenly remembered and slapped his thigh. Li Zongjiu immediately looked at the first elder. The first elder slapped his thigh. He actually forgot such an important matter. It was mainly because Li Zongjiu gave him too much pressure. Huh? Li Zongjiu directly released his spiritual energy. Immediately, he scanned everyone in Jiuhua City and obtained all kinds of information from them in a domineering manner. Everyone felt like they had been seen through by him. If they had any equipment that could defend against spiritual energy attacks, it would be instantly shattered by the opponent's spiritual energy. The jade ornaments hanging on their bodies shattered without them realizing it. Some people even broke out in a cold sweat. If this person wanted to kill them, it would only take a thought to do it. His life was actually so worthless. After scanning the entire city, Li Zongjiu determined from the aura that one of the people had. This person's spiritual energy was extremely powerful, at least not weaker than Li Zongjiu's. When Li Zongjiu's spiritual energy came over, this person's spiritual energy was very strong. It was obvious that this person wanted to fight with Li Zongjiu. Is it an old man who likes to wear flowery clothes? Li Zongjiu asked. Yes, that's right. This is his style. His nickname is Thousand Flower Elder. He's very good at trapping arrays. Lord Evil Lord, you have to be careful. Seeing Li Zongjiu's attitude, it seemed like he wanted to become the enemy of all the array masters in the world. Therefore, the first elder couldn't help but say this. Li Zongjiu's figure suddenly flew out. Meanwhile, in a tavern in the city, an old man wearing a flowery long robe was hugging his left and right. This was a place for drinking wine. Beside the old man was an old friend of many years who was drinking wine with him. Suddenly, the old man's eyes lit up, and the person beside him instantly became alert. What's going on? The middle-aged man in black couldn't help but ask. What he felt just now was definitely not an illusion. Someone really scanned their bodies and wanted to use spiritual energy to investigate them. In terms of spiritual energy, there were only a few people in the entire Haiku dynasty who could be compared to the old man in flowery robe beside him. I don't know where this scoundrel came from. How dare he spy on me? Thousand Flower Elder couldn't help but sneer. How could he not know what level he was at? He actually wanted to show off his slight skill in front of an expert. It was simply stupid. Boom! A large hole was blasted in the roof of the house, and a figure instantly landed in front of the two of them. The surrounding women were so scared that they screamed and fled in all directions. These women who accompanied them to drink often had to practice such skills. When they saw that the situation was not good, they immediately wanted to escape. Disturbing my mood will be the stupidest thing you've ever done in your life. The thousand-flower old man shook his head and said earnestly. Myriad sword chi. The middle-aged man in black beside him leaped, and a terrifying sword chi swept towards Li Zongjiu. It turned out to be a 9th-grade primitive emperor expert. Li Zongjiu carried the hammer, and without saying a word, his figure flashed and rushed in front of the middle-aged man in black, allowing the sword chi to hit his body. He was unscathed. Now that Li Zongjiu's ancient golden body was able to reach the attack of a supreme-level expert, this primitive emperor expert was nothing in his eyes. Boom! The hammer fell, directly breaking the hand of the primitive emperor swordsman who had been roaming the underworld for many years. His figure flew out in an instant, penetrated by the power of thunder and lightning. He fell to the ground, unconscious. Daoist Xianhua quickly took out a formation disc. Even his old friend wasn't his match, not even able to block a single move. However, Li Zongjiu had already clasped the other's wrist. A fist bombarded the other's chest. Yuan Li instantly covered the other's body, sealing the latter's strength directly. Chapter 1082. Who are you? What do you want? The thousand-flower old man did not expect that his old friend of many years would be sent flying with one move. At the same time, he did not even have the chance to display his skills. He was directly subdued by the person who came. Who exactly was this person? When the thousand-flower old man was young and impetuous, he had indeed offended many people. However, as he became famous later, most of his enemies had been dealt with. Some of them had basically gone into hiding, or had come to bury the hatchet. Basically, no one was willing to be an enemy of the thousand-flower old man. The young man in front of him was quite unfamiliar. It could be said that he had never seen him before. However, Li Zhongjiu did not say anything. He directly sent the thousand-flower old man into his blood-soul hell with one palm strike. The thousand-flower old man was trapped in the blood-soul hell. The next moment, Li Zhongjiu's figure disappeared from where he stood. After Li Zhongjiu left, the primitive emperor powerhouse lying on the ground suddenly moved his body. When he opened his eyes, he realized that the surroundings were already empty. Damn it! Who the hell is that person? How could he be so strong? Thousand Flower must have been captured by him. At the thought of this, the primitive emperor hurriedly sent people to search for the thousand-flower old man's traces. He mobilized all his energy, and a mysterious super-powerful young man rushed out for no reason. He had captured the person. There are not many people who can break my sword move in one move. Who the hell is this guy? In just 2 days, the formation masters on the list were all captured by Li Zhongjiu. These people were basically unwilling to go out, and the formation they had meticulously arranged was in their own homes. At first, Thousand Flower had only come to see the situation and show her face because she had received an invitation from a friend. Who knew that she would be captured by Li Zhongjiu as soon as she appeared? In the Haiku dynasty. Because these famous formation masters had all disappeared at almost the same time, a cloud of suspicion suddenly rose in the underworld of the Haiku dynasty. What kind of terrifying force could do something like this? Moreover, why did they capture these array masters? Have you heard? The ancestor of the He clan of Jiangbei was taken away by force in his own territory. The old ancestor of the He clan? Could it be the legendary array master? That's right, that's him. I heard that the entire He clan's territory was destroyed. What kind of array formation was that? All of it was destroyed. In Jiuhua City, many people heard the news and whispered to each other. They told each other all the news that they had heard in order to gain attention. Sometimes, they even exaggerated the news. Come on, big mouth. Whatever comes out of your mouth is basically not true. Like hell I'd believe you. Hey, Big Mouth Huang, may have exaggerated a little at other times, but this time, my news is very accurate. There is absolutely no exaggeration. I have definite news that the one who captured these array masters is the same person. His name is Evil Lord. Evil Lord? That 5-second guy. When Big Mouth Huang gave out such shocking news, everyone was shocked. Everyone present was extremely shocked, and some of them even hurriedly urged Big Mouth Huang to tell them everything he knew. With so much explosive news, how could he not share it? Sigh, I'm a little hungry. Big Mouth Huang touched his stomach. Immediately, someone ordered some chicken, duck, and fish for Big Mouth Huang. It was just a small amount of money. When he saw the delicious food on the table, Big Mouth Huang wiped his mouth and began to eat. Just as Big Mouth Huang was eating, suddenly, he felt a few chilling auras lock onto him. The people around him couldn't help but look up. Fatty, who is this evil lord that you just mentioned? The person who walked closer. The person in front of him. If Li Zhongjiu was here, he would definitely recognize him. This person was the expert swordsman who had been sent flying by Li Zhongjiu in a tavern a few days ago. It was no wonder that the other party was so unconvinced. He had been waiting in Jiuhua City with his brothers in order to find Li Zhongjiu. However, after waiting for so long, he still hadn't seen Li Zhongjiu. Today, he just happened to hear someone talking about this matter, so he walked up directly. Big Mouth Huang looked at the 5 people in front of him. It was obvious that they were not to be trifled with. The aura on their bodies was an independent yet powerful aura. Even the surrounding people who were watching the show lowered their heads and left without looking back. They didn't want to be implicated. About this, I also heard this from a brother. Big Mouth Huang was so scared that the drumstick in his mouth fell off. What brother? Take me to him, and I won't make things difficult for you. Tai Wan said indifferently. Although he was defeated by Li Zongjiu last time, when Tai Wan looked back, he thought that the kid must have used some kind of protective treasure. That's why he was able to protect himself so well. Li Zongjiu was able to block his sword and then hit him, defeating him. Now, the 4 experts by his side were all good friends who had been practicing martial arts for many years. They were also the people who formed a team to explore the Demon Suppression Palace. It was just that they didn't keep an eye on them, and their array masters were taken away by someone else. If there weren't any array masters in this operation, it could be said to be very dangerous. A place like the Demon Suppression Palace must be full of killing arrays. That friend of mine is from Jiuhua sect, Big Mouth Huang said with a trembling voice. Under Tai Wan's gaze, he was about to break down. At this moment, these missing array masters. All of them appeared in one place. Feiyue City. 7 figures stood in front of the soul-burning array. On the ground beside them, there was another person lying on the ground. His head had already been removed. The remaining 7 people all felt a sense of trepidation. They had seen Li Zongjiu's methods in the past 2 days. They didn't know how many people he had killed. Without saying anything, he directly captured them. They didn't even know what was going on before they were captured and brought here. It was only after they were released that they realized why they had been captured. It was actually to break the array. To break the array? You should have said this earlier. Why did you have to fight and kill? You see, it was quite unpleasant. The dead man lying on the ground. He didn't do anything at all. Everyone had just stabilized themselves when Li Zongjiu told them what had happened. In the end, he said that if they couldn't break the array, they would end up like him. Then, this person's head was directly removed. The rest of the people didn't even know what had happened. The dead man was called Xiaoyu. He was a 7th level array master. After all, the circle of array masters wasn't big. They had more or less interacted with each other. They could only watch as this familiar person died in front of them like grass. Everyone knew that Li Zongjiu was vicious and merciless. It was definitely not a joke. Immediately, everyone began to obediently study the soul-burning array in front of them. Obviously, Li Zongjiu was trying to save people. After observing the soul-burning array for a while, these array masters began to understand why Li Zongjiu was in such a hurry to capture them. There wasn't much time left. If they couldn't get the person out, the soul of the woman in the array would dissipate. Even now, the King of Fire was gradually entering a state of unconsciousness. His perception of his surroundings was quite weak. Next, he would be forced to burn his own power. He had to accept the arrival of death. Among the 7 people, there were 2 people in the lead. One was Elder Qianhua. The other was Li Zongjiu, who had spent a lot of effort to capture from a family. His name was He Jiuyang. Both of them were 8th level array masters. Moreover, they were quite familiar with each other and had discussed it together for a period of time. They didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, they would fall into such a predicament. This is an ancient 9th level array, the soul-burning array. If these 8 soul-burning pillars reach the top, there will be no way to save them. It was a 7th level array master who explained the mystery in front of them. Li Zongjiu and Li Yun both looked at him. At least he could see that this was the soul-burning array. The others were slightly surprised when this person spoke. It turned out that this was the legendary soul-burning array. It was said that this array was extremely vicious. It was hard to believe. This person is called Yuan Tianshu. Li Yun looked at the list in her hand and whispered to Li Zongjiu. Can you break this array? Li Zongjiu nodded and then asked Yuan Tianshu. Chapter 1083. Given my strength, it'll take me at least half a year to comprehend this formation. Yuan Tianshu shook his head. No one can break this formation unless they have a level 9 cultivation base. Li Yun's face turned pale when she heard this, even though she knew it would end up like this. However, when these people confirmed it, her heart sank. A level 9 formation master. Not to mention whether Li Zongjiu could find a way to find him, it was hard to say whether he could. Please forgive us. We can't help you even if you kill us, Yuan Tianshu said in a deep voice. Yuan Tianshu said in a deep voice. The others also looked at Li Zongjiu. These people were equivalent to half of the formation masters in the Haiku dynasty. Basically, all the masters that could be found were here. The existence of a level 9 formation master. Even they didn't know. If they didn't know, it was equivalent to not having a level 9 formation master. This made them feel very awkward. How should they explain this matter? There was simply no way to settle this matter. Zongjiu, there's really no way, Li Yun said in a low voice. There seemed to be a slight tremble in her voice. She didn't dare to mention this matter and quickly lowered her head. It wasn't easy for him to find his master. But now, he had to watch his master die in this damned array with his own eyes. Just thinking about it made her feel extremely uncomfortable. There was no way she could accept such an outcome. You're called Li Zongjiu, right? We can't help you with this. Although you acted rashly this time, we won't pursue this matter for the time being since you were eager to save people. Thousand Flower Elder also said to Li Zongjiu. After all, he was an 8th level formation master. He absolutely couldn't back down in this situation, let alone in front of so many people. He couldn't lose face. At the very least, he had to save his own face. Therefore, he directly walked out and said this. In that case, Li Zongjiu said slowly. He let out a heavy sigh and then looked at the 7 people in front of him. The 7 of them widened their eyes. Could it be that this brat wanted to let them go? Knowing that this matter was too difficult, he had no choice but to give up. Li Zongjiu could be considered tactful if he just let them leave. Otherwise, after a long time, their subordinates would definitely track them down. At that time, they would know what pain was. Various armies would come to kill them. Even if they had 3 heads and 6 arms, they would not be able to fight against so many people. When everyone was here, he would definitely teach Li Zongjiu a lesson. Therefore, Old Man Qianhua and the others secretly memorized the faces of Li Zongjiu and Li Yun. Since they wanted to be enemies with them and even offended them, they couldn't just ignore it. Since you can't do anything about it, I'll have to trouble you. Li Zongjiu raised his head and looked at the array masters in front of him. Immediately, a sense of crisis surged in their hearts. What did Li Zongjiu want to do? Could it be that he wanted to attack them? What do you want to do? Brat, I advise you not to mess around. Otherwise, you and your family will not have a good life. Old Man Qianhua roared at Li Zongjiu. Li Zongjiu was clearly going to do something. Li Zongjiu's figure flickered and each of them landed a palm strike on their bodies. Pfft! They spat out blood and flew out. In the next moment, Li Zongjiu directly put the 7 figures into the spiritual hell, roar. In the spiritual hell, the white dragon true spirit was hovering in the sky. When the 7 figures entered, it opened its mouth and roared. Immediately, a terrifying roar swept out. Spiritual domain. Someone can condense the legendary spiritual domain. He Jiuyang exclaimed. Indeed, there was actually someone who could condense a spiritual domain. This was truly shocking. Once the spiritual domain was condensed, it could be said that it was equivalent to an absolute guarantee for one's mind power. Even if one's mind power was severely damaged by someone in the outside world, it could be repaired in time in the spiritual domain. Moreover, in the spiritual domain, unless the opponent's mind power was stronger than yours, it would be very difficult to break out. This was what surprised He Jiuyang and the others. But now, it seemed that it was not a good thing for them. What does that brat want to do? Li Zhongzhou's spiritual doppelganger appeared in the sky above everyone. Since you can't help, I'll borrow your mind power. Li Zhongzhou said faintly. He was high and mighty, like an emperor who ruled the world. The 7 people in front of Li Zhongzhou had used up a lot of experience to get to where they were today. Now that they had met Li Zhongzhou, they were forced to hand over their lifetime's worth of cultivation. This brat wants to refine our mind power to fight against him. Yuan Tianshu immediately felt Li Zhongzhou's intention. It had to be said that Li Zhongzhou's move was very dangerous. If Li Zhongzhou wanted to use his hammer to kill these array masters, it would naturally be no problem. But now, he wanted to fight with them in terms of mind power. It wasn't that easy to win. Whoosh! The white dragon original spirit rushed in front of Yuan Tianshu in an instant. Then, with a fierce swing of its tail, it directly knocked Yuan Tianshu's mind power out of his own body. Yuan Tianshu's mind power could condense in this spiritual realm, as if it had become a transparent figure, but he could only watch his own body stay where it was. What kind of operation was this? The other 6 people also looked at Yuan Tianshu. Their mind power was obviously not strong enough to condense their mind power. It was just a stream of energy, but in Li Zhongzhou's spiritual realm, it directly formed such a state, and they could clearly see each other's souls with their eyes. Buzz! A figure quickly wandered over. It opened its mouth and swallowed Yuan Tianshu, who was still in shock. Soul Beast. Ancient Soul Beast. It was like a giant tadpole wandering in the sky. He kept a close eye on what was happening below at all times. Li Zhongzhou, on the other hand, had his eyes closed and was refining the power that the soul-returning beast had returned to him. Since these people had no way to break this array, then let Li Zhongzhou do it. He would do it himself. In his previous life, Li Zhongzhou's realm of elixirs had reached an extremely terrifying level. Although he had dabbled in other aspects, it was not deep. This time, Li Zhongzhou really had no other way, and could only take such a risk. He had to give it a try. First, he would refine the strength of these 7 people, and then see what kind of level they could reach by gathering them together. At most, it would be equivalent to 3 level 8 array masters. If he wanted to reach the level 9 array master realm, there would be a certain distance. Fight it out with him. He Jiuyang and the others also made their moves. However, in this spiritual realm, some extremely terrifying figures suddenly appeared. These were the mind power of the soul beasts. But why would the mind power of these high-level soul beasts appear here? Under the attack of these soul beasts and the white dragon original spirit, He Jiuyang and the others could not fight back. These array masters who stood at the top of the Haiku dynasty were killed by Li Zhongzhou so easily. Behind each figure, there was a very big trouble. One must know that these people's identities were not simple, and they would come knocking on their doors sooner or later. By then, even one Yulan would not be able to protect Li Zhongzhou. However, Li Zhongzhou did not care about the results. If he wanted revenge, he would welcome it any time. Li Zhongzhou could get rid of them in minutes. This was where Li Zhongzhou's dominance lay. He was not afraid of these people coming to cause trouble. So what if there was someone behind them? They would be defeated in minutes. Li Zhongzhou wanted to save a person, and he did not care about how many people he had to kill. In the end, the souls of the 7 array masters were refined by Li Zhongzhou. In fact, if Wu Tian had an ancient soul beast, he would not have needed to activate something as troublesome as the soul-burning array. When Li Zhongzhou reappeared in front of Li Yun, Li Yun could clearly feel the changes in Li Zhongzhou's body. There seemed to be several violent forces that were all concentrated in Li Zhongzhou's body. It kept vibrating in Li Zongjiu's body. Zongjiu. You. What's wrong with you? Protect me. I will break the array. There were less than 5 days left, and as King of Fire's resistance weakened, the speed of the array seemed to have increased. Obviously, the situation was worse than imagined. Okay. Li Yun's eyes widened. She already had a guess in her heart. Li Zongjiu killed the 7 people and refined their powers. Chapter 1084. Li Zongjiu directly chose to refine the powers of the 7 people in front of him. Doing so was undoubtedly very dangerous. Directly absorbing these 7 terrifying energies into one's body would first put an extremely dangerous strain on one's body. If one was not careful, it was very likely that one would explode and die, or even suffer from qi deviation. However, Li Zongjiu's body did not seem to be in such a situation. After forcibly refining the powers of the 7 people, he was still so calm and did not seem to have any problems at all. Li Yun had already set up a formation around the city. At the same time, Li Yan had also modified the formation in Feiyu's city once again. She directly activated it. Buzz! The Emperor's prison formation was reactivated. Even if someone came knocking on the door, it would take some time before they could break in. At the very least, it was a kind of protection. At the same time, it was also a kind of concealment formation, which could ensure that the enemy would not find this place so quickly. At this moment, Feiyu's city could be said to be in a very dangerous situation. The death of these 8 formation masters alone was enough to shake half of the Haiku dynasty's Jianghu. It was very difficult to find a high-level formation master. Even in the Shengyan dynasty, there were probably only 4 or 5 7th-level formation masters. If these 4 or 5 people were all dead, wouldn't these people panic? The entire Jianghu would be shaken. Although formation masters were not as popular as alchemists, once they reached the peak of this profession, there would naturally be people who would put them in important positions. Now that they were killed, it would definitely anger the forces behind these people. Perhaps there would be more than 7 or 8 of them, or even 10 or 20 of them. However, in order to save the King of Fire, Li Zongjiu did not hesitate to do so. He did everything he could. Now, Li Zongjiu was forcibly refining and absorbing the memories of these people. All the formation experience was concentrated on himself. Although Li Zongjiu had not really studied it thoroughly, fortunately, he was talented and had dabbled in it before. Therefore, the speed at which he absorbed these experiences was relatively fast. Immediately, Li Zongjiu's attainments in the field of formation soared. 2 days later, Li Zongjiu opened his eyes. It was only now that the cultivation of the 7 of them had been completely unlocked. It was completely refined by Li Zongjiu. How is it? Li Yun saw that Li Zongjiu had recovered. King of Fire's condition was getting worse and worse. If they continued to wait, he would definitely disappear completely in 2 days. Right now, I'm probably at the 8th level. Li Zongjiu said. Even Li Zongjiu himself wasn't sure. At the same time, Li Zongjiu found a lot of information about the soul-burning array in Yuan Tianshu's memories. One of the pieces of information was very useful to Li Zongjiu. In order to break the soul-burning array, there was another way besides directly breaking the array, and that was to exchange one's soul for another. It could be considered a compromise, but at least it could be considered as rescuing someone. With Yuan Tianshu's strength, he could barely perform this method. If he had the strength of the other formation masters that day, he would have been able to do it. However, Yuan Tianshu didn't dare to take the risk, so he didn't say it. Now, there was no chance to speak. They were all killed by Li Zongjiu. 8th level. Then is there a chance? Li Yun's eyes were shining. Li Zongjiu had jumped from the 3rd or 4th level to the 8th level in just 2 days. It was simply an incredible realm. Such strength was extremely shocking. There is. Although we can't break the array directly, there is a way to save the King of Fire. Li Zongjiu said. What he had to do now was very simple. He just had to capture someone whose soul force wasn't too weak. At the very least, he had to be able to withstand the pressure. What method? Li Yun asked. First, we need to catch someone with similar strength. Before Li Zongjiu could finish his words, he suddenly heard a huge movement in the sky above Feiyue City. Boom! Fortunately, there was a large array to protect them. An extremely strong fluctuation seemed to be coming from outside, and it spread out in front of them. Evil Sovereign, get the hell out here! A voice resounded through the sky. After tossing and turning, they finally found the hiding place of the man called Evil Lord. Did he think that they wouldn't be able to find him by hiding in such a place? There were close to 20 figures behind Taiwan. Apart from the people that Taiwan had brought with him, the rest were from the He clan. Back then, Li Zongjiu had launched a sneak attack on the He clan and captured He Jiuyang in front of everyone. At that time, He Jiuyang had been unable to stop Li Zongjiu. Later, Li Zongjiu had disappeared. The He clan had immediately mobilized all their forces to find Li Zongjiu's whereabouts. They had also mobilized the experts of the He clan to come here. They had to find Li Zongjiu at all costs. Now, they had finally found Feiyue City. However, just as they were about to barge in, they found that there was an extremely strong force blocking their way. That was why they had seen the scene just now. Didn't you say that you were Evil Lord? You're a supreme being. Don't tell me that you don't live up to your reputation. Brat, if you know what's good for you, quickly invite our old ancestor out. Otherwise, I'll let you experience the might of the He clan. The patriarch of the He clan, He Tianming, said coldly. When Li Zongjiu had launched a sneak attack on the He clan, he hadn't been present. He had been out handling some matters. Who knew that when he returned, the clan's formation had been destroyed and their old ancestor had been captured? In that case, He Tianming, as the patriarch of the He clan, couldn't escape the blame. Therefore, he roared directly. He couldn't wait to bring their old ancestor back. This was a huge loss of face for them. This made He Tianming extremely anxious. The primitive emperors behind him had been brought by He Tianming. They were there to find Li Zongjiu so that they could kill him directly. There shouldn't be any sloppiness. After bringing their old ancestor back, they would kill Li Zongjiu directly. When He Tianming's voice fell, the light screen below actually flickered. The defensive formation had actually opened by itself. Could it be that they wanted to surrender? At present, they didn't know what was going on below Feiyue City. However, they had brought so many experts with them, so there was no need for them to be afraid. With more than 20 primitive emperors gathered together, there was no place in the world that they couldn't go. It's that brat. Someone saw Li Zongjiu standing below. Taiwan also recognized him at a glance. The young man in front of him was the one who had given him a slap in the pub that day. He had finally found this brat. That's him. Everyone, don't be polite. Use the cruelest method to kill him. Taiwan couldn't wait to capture Li Zongjiu and use all means to torture him. The people of the He clan were also boiling at this moment. Let's go down. Immediately, everyone rushed down and landed in front of Li Zongjiu. They sized up the situation around them. Although the city was full of strange things, they had more than 20 people together. Just this alone was enough for them to be brave enough. All of them were staring at Li Zongjiu in front of them. However, they didn't see the person they were looking for, so they weren't in a hurry to act. Brat, who are you? You have captured more than half of the formation masters of the dynasty. Are you trying to make the entire dynasty your enemy? Evil Lord, I'll give you a chance now. Send our old ancestor out safely and the He clan will let bygones be bygones. He Tianming said indifferently. However, even a child wouldn't believe such a thing. Li Zongjiu didn't answer them. Instead, he waved his hand in the air. Then, the array in the sky closed up once again. It was in a closed state. Hee, are you trying to catch a turtle in a jar? Let's see who the turtle is. Evil Lord, do you really think that you can fight against so many of us alone? He Tianming and the rest said coldly. However, Li Zongjiu didn't say anything. Instead, he took out the black dragon hammer in his hand. Swoosh! His figure flashed and he charged towards them. Let's kill this brat first. Taiwan took the lead and brandished the sword in his hand. This time, he wouldn't be hurt by Li Zongjiu's scheme like the last time. Boom! An overbearing thunderbolt burst out from the hammer in Li Zongjiu's hand. Just this string of lightning was enough to break the weapons in the hands of the people in front of him. Chapter 1085. Everyone felt their bodies stiffen as they lost control of their bodies. Naturally, their weapons fell to the ground. They were looking at the person in front of them. Li Zongjiu's figure flashed. He was already holding his hammer and hammering down on the bodies of the He family's experts. Bang! 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 Anyone who was hit by Li Zongjiu's hammer directly had their defenses broken, and their bodies were directly sent flying. With a loud bang, they crashed into a pile of ruins. They had lost their ability to fight. What? He Tianming and the rest saw this and quickly gathered their strength to form a sword qi. They slashed towards Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu's figure was extremely illusory. With a sway of his body, he dodged the sword. He Tianming immediately saw Li Zongjiu's figure rushing towards him. He wanted to free his hands but realized that Li Zongjiu was too fast. Li Zongjiu's hammer hit He Tianming's head. Bang! The protective amulet on He Tianming's body was easily shattered. The remaining power sent He Tianming flying. His head was bleeding. When he fell to the ground, he had no more strength to fight. Then, he fainted. Seeing this, the rest of the people were shocked. However, they didn't have time to take care of He Tianming's situation. Li Zongjiu's figure was like a ghost, flickering and drifting. Once he appeared, he would definitely take someone away. Bang! Two of the He family's experts stood back to back, trying to form a defense. However, it was easily broken. Even the original spirits they released to protect themselves were severely injured. They fell down. Puff! Puff! In just a few minutes, the He family's experts had been defeated. As for Taiwan and the rest of the five, only Taiwan and one of them were left standing. There was only one person left in the He family. In the blink of an eye, there were only 3 primitive emperors left. The miserable state of the people who had fallen to the ground immediately caused everyone to suck in a breath of cold air. It was really too terrifying. Taiwan and his companion exchanged glances. Let's go together. All right. The remaining experts of the He clan did not doubt him. How could they not unite in such a situation? What awaited them would be a complete loss. When they saw Li Zongjiu rushing towards them, Taiwan gave the order. Then, the 3 of them rushed towards Li Zongjiu. Retreat! Suddenly, Taiwan and his companions changed directions and rushed towards the sky. They actually wanted to take the lead in escaping this place. This evil lord in front of them was too strong. How could someone be so powerful? Since most of the He clan's people were already dead, they didn't mind having one more person die so that they could leave. You! The expert of the He clan never thought that these people would flee at such a time. Not only that, but they also sent him out as a scapegoat to block Li Zongjiu's figure. There was no doubt about the outcome of this expert of the He clan. The 3 of them together were no match for Li Zongjiu, not to mention that he was the only one left. Li Zongjiu raised his hand and sent the expert of the He clan flying. He fell to the ground. His body couldn't move. He was only twitching slightly. Break for me. Knowing that there was a defensive formation above them, the two of them slashed towards the formation in the sky at the same time. When they released their sword chi, it didn't even shake the defensive formation in front of them at all. Not only that. That terrifying force instantly bounced back towards the two of them. It was really unexpected that there was such an effect. Boom! Two figures descended from the sky. Li Yun sneered after seeing this scene from afar. Why don't you see who's in charge of this formation? The difference between a large formation controlled by someone and a large formation controlled by no one could be said to be the difference between heaven and earth. Ordinary people simply couldn't imagine how big the difference was. Only when one truly experienced the power of a large formation would one know the terrifying difference between them. Taiwan spat out a mouthful of blood. They had more than 20 primitive emperor experts, all of whom were at the mid-stage and late-stage primitive emperor level. However, none of them were a match for Evil Lord. They were easily defeated by Evil Lord. There was no doubt that Evil Lord was a supreme-level expert. Who would have thought that the title of Evil Overlord was not just a boast, but he really did have such strength? It was unbelievable. They were really unlucky this time. They originally wanted to save the people, but they didn't expect that they would lose their lives. Don't kill. Don't kill me. I'm willing to serve you. I'm at your disposal. Taiwan's companion said hurriedly when he saw Li Zongjiu walking over. This was practically the last of his strength, but he still persisted. After all, this could be said to be his last chance. However, Li Zongjiu didn't waste any more words. He smashed the latter's head with his hammer. This horrifying scene made Taiwan suck in a breath of cold air. What exactly did Li Zongjiu want? His methods were so cruel and terrifying. Since I've been defeated, you can kill me or torture me as you wish. Taiwan said firmly. Just now, one of the people who had admitted defeat had been killed by Li Zongjiu. If he pretended to be calm and unyielding now, he might be able to keep his life. Li Zongjiu waved his hand and sucked everyone into the blood-soul hell. He refined the power of these people, leaving only Taiwan and He Tianming. Taiwan was still conscious. When he saw that everyone had disappeared, he thought that Li Zongjiu must have taken them somewhere. In any case, they definitely wouldn't survive. He couldn't possibly say that he had taken them for treatment, right? Taiwan was nervous that only the two of them were left. What exactly was this guy trying to do? He was simply a demonic existence. He was so powerful that he had captured so many array masters and killed so many Yuan emperors. Such a person would definitely be wanted by the Haiku dynasty. He couldn't believe that someone would actually do such a thing. Can the two of them do it? Li Yun also rushed over from afar. The array disc was near the city walls. Li Zongjiu had controlled the battlefield at the front of Feiyue City. Barely. Li Zongjiu carried Taiwan with one hand and He Tianming with the other. At this moment, He Tianming was still unconscious. Both of them were seriously injured. Li Zongjiu extended his Yuan power and easily controlled the elemental pearls in their bodies. He stopped the elemental pearls from transmitting energy to them. At this moment, they had completely degenerated into cripples. He brought the two of them to the King of Fire's soul-burning array. Protect me. Li Zongjiu tied the two of them up and placed them in front of him. At the same time, Li Zongjiu's mental strength split into 8 forces and slowly rolled towards the 8 soul-burning pillars. When Li Zongjiu's mental strength invaded the pillars, he felt a burning sensation. Immediately, he felt as if his soul was being burned. This kind of pain would evoke the pain in the depths of anyone's heart. In an instant, Li Zongjiu seemed to see the tragic scene of the Li family being massacred. It was a roar from the depths of his soul. It seemed to have penetrated Li Zongjiu's body. Buzz! The white dragon original spirit appeared in time and a cool force extinguished the terrifying energy burning. It stabilized Li Zongjiu's condition. White God Fu. Li Zongjiu, who had regained consciousness, felt a lingering fear. If he had gone mad just now, the consequences would have been unimaginable. These 8 soul-burning pillars were really terrifying array weapons. Li Zongjiu quickly entered the state. Although the soul-burning pillars triggered such a terrifying energy, Li Zongjiu endured it. After stabilizing the soul-burning pillars, Li Zongjiu tried to guide the energy to the 2 of them in front of him. Just now, Li Zongjiu had set up an array in front of the 2 of them, completely locking them in. Immediately, a green energy appeared on the soul-burning pillars. This green energy was constantly pushing out the red energy. When Li Yun saw this scene, she was pleasantly surprised. This meant that it was a success. Li Zongjiu really did it. Originally, there was no hope at all, but Li Zongjiu really did it. Although he couldn't break the soul-burning array. Now, he found another way. As for using other people's lives in exchange, it seemed a little cruel. Li Yun didn't think so at all. These people just now were clearly here to kill them. If Li Zongjiu and Li Yun weren't strong enough, how could they resist the attacks of these people? If they fell into the hands of these people, would they have a good ending? Come on, Li Zongjiu. Chapter 1086. In the Unbounded Land. This place was a boundless forest that stretched as far as the eye could see. There was an inconspicuous mountain peak in the forest. Among the many peaks, it looked extremely ordinary. It was more like an extremely ordinary small hill. However, no meta beast dared to approach within a 10,000-mile radius of this small hill. It was said that a person fell from the sky and landed on this mountain peak. He released his aura and attracted a few level 6 soul beasts to fight for food. However, they were all killed by this person. More and more soul beasts came after hearing the news. However, no matter how many came, they all died. Corpses piled up on the mountain. The soul beasts at the back finally understood that this person wasn't someone to be trifled with. Therefore, all the soul beasts retreated automatically. No one dared to get close to this inconspicuous mountain. This place was called Wu Mountain. There was a stone tablet at the foot of the mountain. Under the stone tablet, there were tens of thousands of soul beast corpses. On Wu Mountain. Suddenly, a surge of earth-shattering energy spread out. Buzz! Instantly, thousands of black figures flew out from Mount Wu and headed up the mountain. Welcome back, Master. Thousands of black figures said in unison. A barefoot middle-aged man with a crew cut walked out. He was wearing a rough linen shirt. He had a stocky build. There was a tooth pendant around his neck. Each tooth was different in shape. However, each tooth had an extraordinary origin. Just by looking at them, one could feel that they were filled with power. You killed my clone and want to touch my soul-burning array. Who are you? This middle-aged man with a crew cut was Sky Wu's original body. This Wu Mountain was also his territory. Compared to cities and fortresses, those resources were nothing to Sky Wu. The thousands of people under his command were all experts. Look after Wu Mountain. Within 10 days, kill 10,000 sixth-order primordial beasts and place their heads in the formation. Sky Wu ordered. Immediately, his subordinates accepted the order and scattered into the distance. Like locusts, they scattered in all directions. Sky Shaman, on the other hand, flew towards the He Chu dynasty. Boom! Haiku dynasty, Zhouhua City. The disappearance of the He family, Taiwan, and the others immediately caused a commotion in Zhouhua City. Almost everyone thought that these people must have died in the hands of evil lord. Otherwise, why didn't he appear for so long? Something must have happened. Is this evil lord a demon? He's too scary. More importantly, I don't know what he's doing. Is he doing this purely to kill people? Many people were speculating about Li Zongjiu's actions. However, Wan Yulan knew the reason. She even sent masters to guard Li Zongjiu in Jiuhua City in case something happened to him. However, if Li Zongjiu didn't encounter any problems, he shouldn't appear. Li Zongjiu wasn't in a good situation either. After capturing these top-tier array masters, he had already made enemies of many people. Things wouldn't be easy for him in the future. Therefore, Wan Yulan was also worried in her heart. If the Wanyong Marquis Mansion rashly intervened, the world would definitely think that the Wanyong Marquis Mansion was the mastermind behind the scenes. She had no choice but to be cautious about this matter. Even Wan Yulan did not expect Li Zongjiu to cause such a huge ruckus. This matter was obviously not going to end well. The news from the Demon Suppression Palace has already spread. I believe that this matter will be diluted. Wan Yulan calculated in her heart. If she wanted to divert attention from one matter, she would create an even bigger matter. That would be much easier. Feyu's city, most of the 8 burning soul pillars had been replaced. The souls of the 2 people in front of her were completely pushed into the burning soul pillars. The King of Fire, who had recovered, looked at Li Zongjiu, who was working hard. When the energy returned to his body, the King of Fire woke up and became stronger. If he could break free from this burning soul array, he would definitely be able to absorb a lot of benefits. The King of Fire didn't say anything. At this moment, Li Zongjiu's body was almost at its limit. However, he was still struggling to hold on. The burning of the burning soul array would only become stronger and stronger. All of a sudden, dark clouds gathered in the sky. It was like a demon of the night. What's wrong? Li Yun suddenly raised her head and looked at the sky. The King of Fire, who was in the array, suddenly became serious. Oh no, he's here. The King of Fire looked at the burning soul pillars. They still needed some time to break free from this burning soul array. But now that Wu Tian had arrived, were they going to fail at the last step? Him. Don't worry, Master. I will definitely buy some time. Li Yun said as she stood up. Then, she quickly rushed to the city wall and activated the array. Damn it! Li Zongjiu, faster! The Fire Wraith King was also making his final effort. If they couldn't break out of the array in time, everyone would die here. Everything they had done before would be in vain. Boom! A loud sound shattered the sky. The light screen of the Emperor's prison array appeared above Feyu's city. Li Yun, who was controlling the array to resist, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The array disc in front of her felt like it was about to collapse. So strong! A glint of surprise flashed across Li Yan's eyes. Her opponent's move was indeed too terrifying. Just this move alone was enough to make Li Yan feel dizzy, as if she had overdrawn her strength. I must hold on. Li Yun swallowed an elixir and quickly recovered from her injuries. At the same time, she rearranged the array disc in front of her and adjusted the array's defense method. Outside the array, Wu Tian looked at the changes in the array and smiled disdainfully. Stupid. Don't you know that I'm the one who set up this array? Then, Wu Tian raised his hand again and pressed his palm down. Boom! The 4 city walls of Feyu's city collapsed. Instantly, they collapsed. Boom! The 4 city walls collapsed. The array disc in front of Li Yun also collapsed in an instant. The strong recoil sent Li Yun flying. Bang! Li Yun's head hit a wall and she fell unconscious on the ground. The recoil alone was not something Li Yun could withstand. Wu Tian's strength was too strong. The surroundings of Feyu's city suddenly collapsed as if an earthquake was happening. The loud rumbling sounds were shocking to the people around. King of Fire, who was in the soul-burning array, looked up at Wu Tian in the sky. His eyes were filled with ferocity. Let him go. I'm willing to be refined by you. King of Fire said in a deep voice. At this moment, she no longer had any hope. Li Zongjiu was completely immersed in the array and was unaware of the situation outside. King of Fire only hoped that Wu Tian would let Li Zongjiu go. After all, she was going to die anyway. No matter what, Wu Tian would not let her go. However, Wu Tian shook his head. He destroyed one of my avatars and caused me to lose 100 years of cultivation. You almost succeeded. Now, let me send you on your way. Wu Tian stood in the air and suddenly raised his palm and slammed it down. Boom! Boom! This palm had the power to destroy heaven and earth. When it came down, even Li Zongjiu would die without a doubt. The palm landed on the ground. The cloud of dust was hundreds of meters high. It covered the sky and covered the sun. Such a shocking scene had never been seen before in their lives. However, Sky Shaman frowned and waved his hand, causing the dust below to disperse. There was no formation below, and the figures of Li Zongjiu and the others had all disappeared without a trace. Illusion Array. Suddenly, Wu Tian's face became extremely ugly. He did not expect that with his cultivation, he would be fooled by an array. What Sky Shaman attacked just now was just an illusion. Deep under Feiyue City, Li Zongjiu forced King of Fire's last trace of soul power out of the soul-burning array. Finally, Li Zongjiu had exhausted quite a bit of his energy, and he leaned against the mountain wall. You rest here. I'll go chase him away. King of Fire waved his hand and sent a wave of energy into Li Zongjiu's body. It immediately helped Li Zongjiu recover from his exhaustion. Li Zongjiu saw this and laughed bitterly. Can you do it? I let him do it last time. King of Fire said indifferently. In the next moment, a terrifying aura was released from King of Fire's body. Boom! In the sky, a fiery red cloud followed the Fire Wraith King's summon, dispersing the dark clouds brought by Wu Tian. In the end, the two of them stood on equal footing. So this girl has also broken through to the Supreme Being level. Li Zongjiu was almost exhausted. With the energy that King of Fire sent into his body, he began to recover. Chapter 1087. King of Fire rushed out from the ground. Seeing King of Fire appear in front of him, Sky Wu was a little surprised. But since King of Fire was still here, it was just a matter of time. You should have just run away. Sky Wu said indifferently after seeing King of Fire. You've lived for so long. Don't you know that women hold grudges? In King of Fire's hands, a terrifying flame immediately emerged. With the appearance of this flame, the battle was instantly ignited. Sky Wu naturally wouldn't underestimate King of Fire. The first time he tried to take down King of Fire, he suffered a lot. So this time, he specially arranged a precious clone here. Who knew that it would be destroyed by Li Zongjiu? The Fire Wraith King's flames were like a waterfall as they rushed towards Sky Wu. The terrifying flame swept out. It was like a violent storm. Sky Wu also raised his hand and rushed into the sea of fire. The flame followed Sky Wu and was directly split into two, spreading far away. Boom! He rushed in front of the Fire Wraith King and immediately slammed his palm toward the Fire Wraith King's head. Bang! King of Fire took Sky Wu's palm head-on. The two's aura instantly collided and immediately set off a terrifying shockwave. Boom! It spread out in all directions. Interesting. After a few consecutive moves, Sky Wu's eyes flashed with a strange light. He didn't expect King of Fire's strength to have such a huge breakthrough. Looks like you've also awakened. Sky Wu looked at King of Fire in surprise and said. King of Fire and he were of the same origin. So they understood each other's strength very well. It was just that Sky Wu had awakened his memory and strength earlier. Therefore, he wanted to take advantage of the fact that King of Fire was still weak to kill King of Fire. However, he did not expect that the King of Fire would awaken as well. You want to kill me? I'm afraid it won't be that easy. The King of Fire stared at Sky Shaman and said indifferently. This was also King of Fire's background. Immediately, a wave of energy spread out. Within the body of the King of Fire, there was a vast will of inheritance and ancient times that stood above the heavens and the earth. Behind the Fire Wraith King, there seemed to be a huge illusory figure emerging. Sky Shaman furrowed his brows. The awakening of the Fire Wraith King was a very troublesome matter for him. Originally, he could have quietly taken down the Fire Wraith King. However, if he wanted to take down the Fire Wraith King now, he would have to put in more effort. There's a time to awaken. Now that you've awakened, do you think you're my opponent? Sky Wu said indifferently. In the next moment, an even more vast will was released from Sky Wu's body. It was twice as strong as the King of Fire. Both of them had a ball of blue flame on their bodies. Their flames danced around each other and revealed a state and feeling that they wanted to devour each other. Buzz! Li Yun struggled to get up from the pile of ruins. When she saw the King of Fire and Sky Wu fighting in the sky, she heaved a sigh of relief. Master is out. Li Yun said in surprise. Since Master had appeared, it meant that he had escaped. Li Zhongjiu had succeeded. Sure enough, this kid did not disappoint her. However, the appearance of this middle-aged man in front of her made Li Yun extremely shocked. This person's strength was so strong. Looking at the array disc that had been destroyed, Li Yun was also shocked by Sky Wu's strength. At the same time, Li Yun hurriedly repaired the array disc in front of her. At the very least, she had to make use of some of the broken arrays. Although Master had recovered his strength, the opponent's strength was not something that Master could resist. He had to help his master. Moreover, Li Zhongjiu had not appeared until now. He must have exhausted a lot of energy. Previously, Li Yun had helped Li Zhongjiu to move the entire array underground and set up a camouflage. Fortunately, Li Zhongjiu's plan had worked. Otherwise, the two of them would have died. In the battle between the King of Fire and Sky Wu, it was obvious that Sky Wu was at a disadvantage. Wu Tian even threw out a palm strike, which almost sent the Fire Wraith King flying. Bang! The King of Fire's figure landed on the ground, and the vibration of the ground instantly spread out. So that kid was hiding underground. Then I'll destroy this place. Sky Wu sneered. The reason why the King of Fire had dispersed the power just now was because he was worried that the power would spread underground and affect Li Zhongjiu, who was in the process of repairing. Since he knew what the opponent was concerned about, he would directly attack the weak spot. Immediately, Sky Wu gathered a wave of energy in his hand. Such a terrifying power immediately blasted towards the ground. Naturally, the King of Fire would not let Sky Wu succeed. Opening his defense, he could only take this attack head-on. Wang! A violent vibration came. After the King of Fire opened his defense, Sky Shaman's thoughts were further confirmed in his mind. It seems that you haven't fully awakened. You still have a heart of compassion. Sky Wu said coldly. He launched one attack after another toward the ground. The King of Fire forcefully held on, and the power in his body was constantly being stimulated. This line of defense wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Boom! Just as the King of Fire was struggling to hold on, a loud sound suddenly came from the side. A huge energy cannon blasted Sky Wu's body. However, it only blasted Sky Wu's clothes. On Sky Wu's body, some dark tadpole-like tattoos were shining at this moment. It easily absorbed all the energy that was supplied to it just now. When he turned around, he saw a battleship facing him. Oh no! When the King of Fire saw this thing, he knew that Li Yun had made a move. Li Yun was piloting the Eagle battleship. However, there was only one person operating it. Therefore, after the attack, it would take a long time to fly away. Therefore, Li Yun gave up on escaping. She directly prepared for the second round of attack. Damn, your skin is so thick. Then I'll do it again. Li Yun was preparing for the second round of attack. However, Sky Wu had already flicked his finger. Boom! The Eagle battleship instantly exploded. Before Li Yun could react, the King of Fire's figure flashed and directly grabbed Li Yun, and then jumped. They escaped from the Sea of Fire. Leave this place. The King of Fire directly pushed Li Yun's body, sending Li Yun flying. In the blink of an eye, she disappeared into the horizon. When a Supreme Being expert fought against an ordinary person, the effect was very obvious. The difference in strength between them was very large. Therefore, Li Yan did not have any resistance in the face of this force and was easily sent out. Sky Wu did not care about Li Yun. Instead, he took advantage of the King of Fire's attack and directly attacked the King of Fire. The houses on both sides instantly became Sky Wu's weapons and directly crushed towards the King of Fire. Bang! The King of Fire waved his hands and instantly destroyed the surrounding houses. Suddenly, a figure flew in from the countless broken stones and suddenly came out, punching the King of Fire. The power around the King of Fire was instantly drawn. Boom! The King of Fire was sent flying, and instantly flew out on the streets of the city, dragging a long trail. After awakening, is this all you can do? Sky Wu said indifferently. The King of Fire was severely injured, and the state of his body was in chaos. However, the King of Fire still endured the pain in his body and slowly stood up. Kill me, and I will make you pay the price. The King of Fire said slowly. His eyes were already bursting with the will to die. In this case, he must fight with Sky Wu until the end. He must make Sky Wu pay a great price, or else Li Zongjiu and the others would be in danger. I won't kill you. You are still very useful to me. Sky Wu suddenly threw out a flag from his hand. When the flag flew out, it was instantly inserted in the middle of the road. The flag instantly flew up, and from the flag, a few pitch-black vines stretched out, and instantly wrapped around the King of Fire's body from a distance of 100 meters, controlling the King of Fire. Chi! The King of Fire's eyes were filled with surprise. Then, from the vines, a powerful force was immediately injected, causing the King of Fire's body to become weak. It was as if he had lost all the strength in his body. The last vine quickly rushed towards the King of Fire's heart. Boom! Chapter 1088. King of Fire opened his eyes, but the feeling of being penetrated did not come. It was as if there was a figure in front of him. When he opened his eyes, he saw a familiar figure. Li Zongjiu, King of Fire's eyes immediately revealed a look of surprise. Li Zongjiu grabbed the rushing rattan with one hand, and the towering flame in his body was immediately released. The towering flame followed the path it came from, and directly covered the flag in front of him. Boom! The flag was completely engulfed by the towering flames. The flame instantly ignited the flag. The rattan that was wrapped around King of Fire's body also withdrew in an instant. I'm late. I was preparing something just now. Li Zongjiu helped King of Fire up, and gave King of Fire a pill. In any case, it was still a 6th-grade medicinal pill, and it had a very good effect in assisting one's injuries. King of Fire swallowed the pill, and at the same time, he looked at Li Zongjiu in front of him in surprise. How did you recover so quickly? Because I accidentally broke through. Li Zongjiu said. After being in a deadlock for so long on the Burning Soul Pillar, not only did Li Zongjiu's mental strength increase, but it also allowed Li Zongjiu's physical strength to continuously increase. In addition, the mental strength of the previous array masters was replenished. At this moment, Li Zongjiu's mental strength had reached the level of a 6th-grade primitive emperor. Even Li Zongjiu did not expect this kind of improvement. You're the one who destroyed my clone. Wu Tian stared at Li Zongjiu. It was as if he wanted to see what kind of background Li Zongjiu had that he could actually destroy his clone. Originally, I had minded my own business and spared your life. But now, you will definitely die. Li Zongjiu sighed, then looked at Sky Wu and said slowly. Kill me? Ha, come on. Sky Wu said disdainfully. King of Fire recovered and stood in front of Li Zongjiu, indicating that he wanted to fight side by side with Li Zongjiu. However, Li Zongjiu's speed was extremely fast. Even in the eyes of King of Fire, he could only see an afterimage flash by. Shua! Sky Wu also exerted strength in his legs and instantly rushed towards Li Zongjiu. The two figures collided in an instant. Boom! Their fists collided with each other's. The strong airwaves formed by the collision of their fists easily crushed the surrounding houses, making them look like a pile of tofu. Huh! Sky Wu was surprised. He did not expect Li Zongjiu to be able to compete with him in terms of strength. Bang bang bang. The two of them exchanged a few punches in a row. Under the constant collision of their fists, one could even hear the sound of the surrounding space being unable to bear the pressure. There might be people outside who noticed the situation in Feiyue City, but at this moment, there was an extremely powerful and chaotic airflow lingering inside and outside the city. No one dared to get close. If one's strength was not enough, they would definitely be shredded into pieces as soon as they got close. No one wanted to end up like that. Based on the current situation, there must be some top experts fighting in the city. In short, Feiyue City would probably be torn down by the two of them. Bang! Li Zongjiu's punches were obviously faster and more ruthless. His fighting style was also more direct. Coupled with his body's natural defense, he was actually able to block Sky Wu's fist. When the punch landed on Sky Wu's body, it sent him flying hundreds of meters away. The golden dragon tattoo on Li Zongjiu's body flickered. It was obvious that he had suffered a lot of force in the fierce battle just now. King of Fire originally wanted to help. However, when he saw Li Zongjiu fighting so fiercely, he simply gave up and watched from the side. It was fine to just support the battle. Sky Wu's body was blasted back. However, he was also injured. Li Zongjiu's fighting style was indeed fierce, but to Sky Wu, this kind of injury was not worth mentioning. Your fighting instincts are very strong, but it's a pity that your strength is too weak for me. Sky Wu said faintly. This was the truth. No matter how much Li Zongjiu increased his strength, he was still an primitive emperor. It was a very big leap for him to fight against a primordial expert. Otherwise, he would not have been so afraid when he met the mountain seagull that day. He only dared to take advantage of the situation when the thousand-year flood dragon and the mountain seagull were both injured. However, Li Zongjiu was not moved at all. My strength? You know nothing about my strength. Since that's the case, I'll let you have a good taste of it. Li Zongjiu said and snapped his fingers. Immediately, Sky Shaman seemed to feel a wave of energy approaching, and the ground around him suddenly collapsed. Then, the 8 burning soul pillars drilled out from the ground. Rumble. The 8 burning soul pillars surrounded Sky Wu. Burning soul array. Can you do it? Sky Wu looked at the 8 burning soul pillars. These burning soul pillars were personally refined by him, but now they were in Li Zongjiu's hands. However, Sky Wu did not believe that Li Zongjiu could take away the burning soul array in such a short time. This burning soul array is mine. You want to use my array against me? Let's try. Li Zongjiu sharpened the soul-burning array in his hand, and with a slight flick of his fingers, a terrifying force immediately burst out from the array and rushed towards Wu Tian. The burning soul array's power immediately locked Sky Wu within. Boom! Sky Wu's fist suddenly exerted force and directly opened a hole in the array. He wanted to escape the array's range, but Li Zongjiu's array skills were not low. Although this array was forcibly created, Li Zongjiu's comprehension was very strong. As he attacked, the burning soul pillars chased after him. They continuously released a terrifying force towards Sky Wu, trying to trap him in the array. They chased after Sky Wu. Buzz buzz. The black dragon hammer in Li Zongjiu's hand kept flashing. Just now. Li Zongjiu did not use the black dragon hammer. When Li Zongjiu took out the black dragon hammer, terrifying lightning surrounded it and a dark cloud appeared in the sky. At this moment, Sky Wu, who was fighting against the burning soul array, raised his head and looked at the sky. What? A terrifying lightning force was brewing. When Sky Wu stared at the sky. Then, an incomparably thick bolt of lightning fell from the sky, directly towards Wu Tian. Boom! The lightning force summoned by the black dragon hammer was quite terrifying. Even some of the people who were watching the battle from outside the city revealed shocked expressions. Even though they were so far away, they could still feel their hearts palpitating. What a terrifying raging lightning! Even a peak origin emperor would not be able to resist it. Li Zongjiu's lightning bolt struck down. The energy radiated from the explosion almost destroyed half of Flying Moon City. A huge crater appeared in Flying Moon City. In the burning soul array, Sky Wu's figure had disappeared. King of Fire came to Li Zongjiu's side. Li Zongjiu's move just now could be said to be full of energy. He escaped. King of Fire looked at Li Zongjiu in disbelief. He did not expect Li Zongjiu to make Sky Wu flee. Sky Wu's strength was at least in the realm of a third-grade sovereign, but when facing Li Zongjiu, he could only choose to escape. He did not have the upper hand. After King of Fire awakened, he naturally understood that Sky Wu's strength was not so easy to deal with. However, Li Zongjiu's body was also exhausted. Seeing Li Zongjiu's weariness, King of Fire came to support him. He ran fast. Li Zongjiu said indifferently. Then, he put away the burning soul array. The 8 burning soul pillars flew directly into Li Zongjiu's body. In order to refine the burning soul array, Li Zongjiu directly opened up another hell. Li Zongjiu named this layer of hell the array hell. Now, Li Zongjiu's 10 hells were almost half opened up. Blood soul hell, spirit hell, flame hell, and now array hell. The more energy accumulated in the body in the early stage, the greater the restriction in breaking through in the later stage, and the more energy would be needed. Let's leave this place first. Li Zongjiu could still move freely now, so he and King of Fire went to look for Li Yun. After finding her, they would return to Black Canal Royal City. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.